Right. Well, thank you all for being here. What a lovely thing to see such a warm crowd in the audience. We so appreciate this night to celebrate our retirees and our new council coming on and us old people going off, and just appreciate you being here tonight. So welcome, Placerville. It's December 11th, 2018, and it's my privilege to call for the last time the order of the City Council meeting to order. So with that, I invite you to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I never get tired of that. It's a great way to start a meeting. All right. Roll call, please. I think this would be my first time doing this. My goodness. Good evening, Regina.
Vice Mayor Acuna.
Here.
Councilmember Borelli.
Here.
Councilmember Clarici.
Here.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
Here.
Mayor Thomas.
Here. Thank you. Announcements and presentations to the public. I will just start briefly. We have a new planning commissioner and like to welcome Barbara Rains. We appointed her a couple of weeks ago, and so we're delighted to have Barbara on our planning commission. We always appreciate the folks that are willing to step up and serve our community in these important capacities. So Barbara's going to be she's a fireball of energy, and she's going to be fabulous on our planning commission. So excited to have her on board. How many of you were at the Hangtown Christmas Parade? Show of hands. Was that not a great day? I tell you, our community spirit just shines bright on the Christmas Parade. And a big thank you to all the folks that put it on and sponsored it and showed up and participated and cheered it on. It's just a real day of hometown holiday spirit, and it was just
And we had a great float.
We did. It was
Thanks to you and Dennis.
It was a group effort. It was a real privilege for everyone. And Michael, you do a great job. You and your wife passing out candy with our grandson. You
yes,
not throwing candy, but passing it out.
Yes. Yes.
Did a great job with that. And one last announcement. Those of you who have been following all of the fundraising efforts to support our neighbors in Paradise for the campfire. Dennis and I had some really good news tonight. The campaign that we started with the El Dorado Community Foundation, our goal was to raise $100,000 for our neighbors in Paradise, and this evening we made it. Yeah. So a generous person in our community donated about $13,000 to put it over the top. And then we got a call from Steve Stymus Auto Body that says their employees are donating another $1,300. So we are over $100,000 for our neighbors in Paradise. So that was over 400 people donated, ranging from a donation of $10 up to $15,000 was the biggest. So $100,000 for 400 people. Our community really showed up in force. And once again, that shows the amazing, caring community that we have. So
Wendy, would you share where it's going and who's going to?
You bet. It is going to the North Valley Community Foundation in Paradise, and 100% of the proceeds will go to those that are in dire need and directly affected by the fire. So our El Dorado Community Foundation will be donating to their community foundation to serve that. So just so proud of our community. With that, other council comments? Vice Mayor Acuna.
Nothing this evening, thank you, Madam Mayor.
No, other than I was just going to mention the parade, and we all pitched in, and poor Mark was sick, but other than that, we had a great time, and it was just fun.
It was. Councilmember Clarici. No? Councilmember Zaragoza?
Same thing. The parade was great. Had a great time. Thank you, Mayor, and Dennis for providing the vehicle for us to be there that day. And like I said, it was a little bit of our exercise as well by jumping off and handing out candy to the kids and then trying to run back. We were moving a lot quicker than we had anticipated, but it was fun. Thank you.
You bet. Item number 4, closed session report. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Mayor. Tonight, the council did not take reportable action.
All right, thank you. Number 5, the adoption of the agenda. I would like to move item 12.3 before item 12.1. Are there any additional additions?
Madam Mayor, with that change, I'll go ahead and move for approval of the
I'll
adoption.
second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Agenda is adopted. All right, we are at the beginning of a number of ceremonial matters for this evening. And our first is the employee service recognition. I love that we have such a dedicated staff, and it's so important that we recognize and honor their years of service and commitment to our community. So, Mr. Morris, good evening, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think I'll start off with announcing there's four of these. Only one of these people were able to make it tonight, unfortunately. But we will make sure that they're recognized and get their certificates to them. So I'm going to announce the others, and then I'll announce the one that is here last, and we can have them come up. We'll start with David Tharp in Public Works Community Services. David has been here for 10 years now, and we want to recognize him for his service. Brody Jordan, a sergeant in our police department, has been here for 15 years of service. Kim Nida, also in the police department, commander in our police department, has been here for 15 years. And then last but not least, John Muser, also a sergeant in our police department, has been here for 20 years. So if we could recognize and appreciate all them first. And then I'd like to ask Department Head Pierre Rivas to come up, and Sharon Campbell from our wastewater plant, if Sharon would come up, please. Sharon has also been here for 10 years. She is our lab technician out at the wastewater treatment plant, does a great job for us there. I want to recognize Sharon.
Wonderful. Come on down, Sharon. Well, come on, go ahead and come on down for the podium, Sharon.
No,
Yep,
the microphone.
Microphone right there, yes. And we just want to thank you so much for your dedication to our city. What you do is so important. I don't think folks realize the importance of our wastewater treatment plant and your work to keep us compliant and just to keep without getting into detail, everything moving smoothly and appropriately. And we so appreciate your work. Would you like to say something?
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Sure appreciate your first 10 years and look forward to more. And we thank you for being here tonight. All right. I don't like this one.
It gets more painful as we
It
move
does get more painful as we go on. Employee retirements. Can we allow this? No, it's a bittersweet thing when we can celebrate someone's commitment and life's work to our city and wish them blessings and joy in this next chapter of their life. And that is a privilege. So, Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, again. And you're right. Tonight we are retiring around 90 or over years of service from total of 3 people in the city. And so there will be a big void left behind from them. We wish them the best, and we would like to recognize them at this time. And so we will start with Dan Yarrow from our wastewater treatment plant. We want to recognize Dan, and I'm going to turn some time over to his department head, Pierre Rivas, to say a little bit about Dan.
Thank you, members of the council. I'm honored to give a brief overview of Dan's 21 and a half years of service with the city at our Hangtown Creek water reclamation facility. Dan's interest in this field began 41 years ago when he took a job with EOS in 1977. EOS was under contract to manage the Fairfield-Sassoon wastewater treatment plant at that time. Dan worked his way from operator in training to lead operator with EOS, having worked there from 1977 to 1994. When EOS lost the contract to OMI, Dan remained at the plant, working for OMI as a lead operator from 1994 to 1996. During that time at OES and OMI, Dan continued with his education, having received his certificate of completion in wastewater treatment in 1978. He continued his education at Solano Community College, completing coursework in advanced wastewater treatment, process control and hydraulics, instrumentation control, and sanitary chemistry, among others. And at this point, I just want to emphasize the skill set that's necessary to be a successful operator at a wastewater treatment plant such as ours. It combines a working knowledge of biology, chemistry, and mechanics. And with the advancement of technology, it also requires a working knowledge of computer applications. And the word I always hear that took me a while to get used to is SCADA system. What does that mean? Well, it means supervisorial control and data acquisition, which allows for the control and monitoring of the plant process either at the plant or remotely via a laptop. In 1996, Dan made an application with the city of Placerville and was hired for the position of senior wastewater treatment operator in June of 1996, and a desire to leave the valley for the foothills. When the current plant supervisor was out on medical leave, Dan stepped up as acting wastewater treatment plant supervisor in November of 2001. He was later given the permanent position of wastewater treatment plant supervisor in January of 2002. Throughout Dan's tenure as plant supervisor, Dan received letters of accommodation for outstanding work and dedication to his profession. In a letter given to him in April of 2002 by the then city manager, city attorney, Mr. John Driscoll, to acknowledge what I would call an esprit de corps to Dan and to his fellow operators, and I will paraphrase from that letter, commending Dan and the staff for sacrifices made reflective of an attitude that puts the interests of the city before your own. Dan continued in his position of plant supervisor through December of 2008 until personal commitments required his additional attention. He then stepped back to the senior plant operator from December of 2008 through his retirement in December of this year. I believe Dan's crowning achievement was the oversight and operation of the plant during its $45 million upgrade that was necessary to meet current state and federal regulations. This involved numerous meetings during the design phase that commenced in 2005, and then the actual construction of the plant upgrades, all while keeping the plant in operation until completion of the upgrades in 2009. And I will quote, and I've been told it was Webb Owen of Owen Engineering that said this, that keeping the plant operating while doing all the improvements is like changing the blades on a blender while it's running.
It was a tough time.
And Dan, do you still have all 10 fingers? Dan's last day was December the 4th. We give him a heartfelt thank you for all of his service to the city of Placerville. We wish him well in his retirement. We can now enjoy his family and his grandkids and whatever else he wants to do rather than working at a wastewater treatment plant. He will be missed. Thank you, Dan.
Well, thank you very much. Just want to say it's been a great honor to be at the wastewater plant for these past 22 years. I've learned a lot. I've grown as a person, and I really appreciate having all the opportunities that were granted to me. And thank you very much.
Oh. Yeah, Dan, we'd like you to stay here for just a few more minutes.
Okay.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Dan, I am going to admit one of the city manager's faults is his memory. Excuse me. We do have a presentation for you, and I just realized as we were talking that the city manager left it sitting on his desk in his office. So I will get that to you. Just so everyone knows, we present a city watch to all of our retirees that have over 20 years of service, so we will get that to you, and I apologize for missing that tonight,
Thank
Dan.
you.
I want to just mention quickly, I got to know Dan as well as most of the other people at the wastewater treatment plant over the last 2 winters when we had some very heavy rain. It seems like I spent quite a bit of time down there, more than usual. And they were all very welcoming and helpful in informing me, keeping me informed, and letting me know what was going on down there. So I appreciate it, Dan. You were always very professional and helpful in meeting me down there. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's it. We're not done yet, Dan. We're not done yet. Sorry. No, he needs to stand there. This is his moment. This is his moment.
It'll be worth it. Dan, on behalf of the city council, first off, let me thank you for taking such good care of literally our most expensive investment in this city, which is that $40 million plant that is constantly monitored by the state and federal regulations, and it's through your hard work and the team that you have at that plant that it operates continuously in compliance and serves the citizens doing the job it's designed to do. And on behalf of the city council, we have an extra gift. Knowing that you worked as an on-call employee, that I'm confident that there were a lot of family events, dinners, meals, Saturdays that were missed because you had to go back out to the plant. So what we would like to do is give you this gift so that you and your wife can go out and enjoy a lovely meal and think of the city of Placerville and the council for thanking you for your years of service.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. We certainly wish you well in this next chapter of your life, and
Thank you.
enjoy your travels. Wow. All right. Yes. Who's next?
I'm going to turn some time over to Steve Yule. We will recognize our Parks and Facilities Superintendent, Bob Pine. I don't know if you remember or not, but I think it was about 5 years ago we recognized Bob for 30 years of service. So he has more than that. So I'll turn it over to Steve to talk about Bob.
So, come on down, Bob.
Bob loves this.
Come on down.
It's a real honor and privilege to get to recognize Bob tonight. I cannot say enough good things about this guy. We kind of grew up together here. Bob started out in Public Works, but as soon as I could possibly convince him to come over to the park side of the division, it was obvious that he had the leadership skills to take the responsibility associated with working in a small city with little resources and you know all the infrastructure troubles we have. This is the guy that deals with it every day. Above all, without a doubt, he's the kindest person I've ever met. Bob is amazing. It's been a privilege to work side by side. He's been a role model for me with the way he treats people. It's amazing. He's taught us to lead by example, work hard, be fair, and have compassion for others. No matter what the circumstance, Bob always seems to find the good in people and is always willing to help with the situation. And in his line of work, that situation could be a broken pipe one day, an electrical fire the next day. It doesn't matter. Bob would take it on. You could ask any employee in this room, and they could all give examples of how Bob had a positive impact on their time at work. A day does not go by when I don't hear someone say, "Thanks, Bob." Whether it's from the PD department or the city manager's office or the public works. A day does not go by where I don't hear someone say, "Thank you, Bob." Bob and I have been together for so long, and we're both going out on the same day. And I think that that's real fitting. And we've been together for 30 years, and I'm just looking forward to being his friend for the next 30 years. And so with that, Bob.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. Building it up way too much. But a lot to live up to now.
I hope so, because I plan on being your friend for the next 30 years.
You will. You are. You are. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I want to thank the city for the opportunity to take a chance on me. I was 18 when I started here, so it's been a long time, but it's been a good place to work. Appreciate it very much.
Bob, the fact that you've given your entire career and your life to the city is just incredible. I mean, the fact that your family's life, your passion, you've dedicate
Well, it's
all
been-
your adult years to serving our city and its residents. And as Steve said, you've done it with grace, with creativity, with passion, doing whatever it took. And thank you for committing your life to our city and its residents, and just so excited that this next chapter is yours, and it's richly deserved. And we wish you much joy and blessings in your journey going forward.
Thank you very much.
Wow. And
Don't leave yet, Bob. So I just want to mention quickly, yes, I do have a watch for you too, and I apologize. I will find you. I will find you and deliver that to you. But I want to thank Bob also. He literally what Steve said is absolutely true. I spent my share of the time thanking Bob for everything he did, and I'm sure when he saw my cell phone or his cell phone ringing with my number coming in, he was dreading what the city manager was calling for again. But you never know it when you heard it from him, because he was always happy to do whatever he could to make it right and take care of things. So Bob, you will be missed. We thank you dearly for all that you've done for the city and wish you the best in your retirement.
Thank you. I'll miss everybody.
And
But I'll still be around.
Vice Mayor Cunha has one more comment here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Bob. You and Steve are certainly a dynamic team. In the years that I worked with Steve, I found out that you were his secret weapon. And we would find out that something had been broken, something had been vandalized, something always is happening in this town. And I'd ask Steve, well, who took care of that? Oh, Bob took care of it. Where's the budget? We'll deal with it. How are we going to do it? It's fine. It's already been fixed. I mean, you have just been the go-to guy, and that is such a blessing for an old town like this that has its aches and pains. Bob is the guy that raises and lowers the flags in this town. Bob is the guy that does respond when something gets vandalized on a weekend or something's not quite set up correctly for a softball tournament. It was frequently him that was answering the phone call saying, oh yeah, I'll take care of it. And I heard this story after story from Steve. He really shared some interesting tales that you have dealt with, and just always with a positive attitude, as he described, and always ready to answer the phone yet again. So just like with Dan and the after-hours dedication he had, the council would like to give you a little gift for you and your wife to go out and enjoy a meal on our expense. And thank you very much for all those interruptions throughout your career. And he actually is 2 months shy of 40 years of service. So thank you very much.
That's
Thank you.
remarkable.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to recognize our District 3 Supervisor, Brian Veerkamp. And Brian, thank you so much for being here. Come on down.
Wait, there's more.
So Bob Pine, Steve Ewell, and we'll get to you shortly, and myself all were city employees at one time, and you guys stayed, and I left. By some means, Kathy, where's Kathy? She still doesn't like me because of that. So she reminds me of that. But, yeah, I know, Kathy. But it really gives me great pleasure on behalf of the El Dorado County Board of Supervisors to recognize these two individuals, and again, we'll get to Steve in a minute. But, Bob, back then, you were that person. It's really good to know you're still that person today, and what you've done for the citizens of El Dorado County, let alone the citizens of the city, are commendable. And you just don't find that work ethic that these two people represented and have portrayed. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and myself, we recognize Bob Pine for nearly 40 years of outstanding service to parks and facilities in the city of Placerville. We wish you your best in retirement. I know I'll see you on the road occasionally.
Yeah.
I'll be checking on your progress, but just to wish you the best in retirement, and you certainly deserve it. Great job, and are very commendable for the services.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Veerkamp, for recognizing his years of service, and we'll see you back here in a minute. All right, we have one more. Mr. Morris.
Okay, we've gotten through about 62 years. We've got 32 more to go. It's my pleasure to introduce and mention a little bit about Steve Ewell. To kind of describe Steve, the first thing I would say, we talked about having a retirement party for him, and this is it. This is all we could get out of him. So,
Do we need to at least have him at the podium?
Well, we can,
Yeah, I think we need to at least have him at the
I can't see
podium.
him. Is Steve here?
Yeah, come on down, Steve.
Do I have to?
Yes, you
So
do.
everybody
Yes,
knows
you
who
do.
you are.
Come on, Steve.
So,
Let us see
Steve-
him.
That's right.
Steve, similar to Bob, started at a very young age working for the city. He did some things a little bit in a couple of other cities part-time, but he started with the city part-time in 1980, working with youth sports events. He was an administrative aide, and he did some park maintenance too, all of those things. In 1986, he started full-time as a recreation aide. 1987, just a year later, he was made a recreation supervisor, and then 5 years later, in 1992, he became recreation superintendent. Did that for about 14 years until 2006, and he became acting director of community service, and that was made permanent a month, or actually a week later. April 1st, he was made acting. April 8th, he was made permanent. So they didn't let him be acting very long. So. One of the things that my action with Steve was primarily in 2012, shortly after I got here, a couple years after I got here, and we had some budget issues we had to deal with, some other retirements to deal with, and I asked Steve if he would take over Public Works, and I think I still remember when I did that, and the blank look I got from him was thinking that, I don't know anything about Public Works. But I want to state that Steve did a great job over these what's been since 2012, last 6 years, handling Public Works and making sure that things kept running over there. Again, I still remember many times he kind of says, I don't know, what paving is supposed to be or how these lines are supposed to be installed, but these guys are doing good. I'm just following them, and they're doing a good job. So I think some thanks goes out to the Public Works Department for supporting him also. One of the fun moments with Steve was in December of 2015. I don't know if he remembers this. He got to walk down the red carpet for the Golden Globe Awards when he won an award, a statewide award for the Golden Globe Awards from the film industry for the city. He was the city representative for the whole state. And that was a great honor for us. I wish I could have been there to see Steve walking down the red carpet. That would have been good. I'm not sure if he had his fishing pole with him or not, but he may have. It wouldn't be. I couldn't get away without doing everything I need to here without talking about at least one of Steve's mishaps that he always tells us about. And I remember when I first came here, all the employees I would talk to would tell me one or two things that happened to Steve. So he was prone to that. But I'll talk about his most recent when he I guess dislocated his shoulder or broke his shoulder, rotator cuff, something in there.
Thank you, Cleve. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate it. For those of you that don't know, Steve was actually treed by a bull. That's how that happened. So he got chased by a bull. He climbed a tree to get away, and unfortunately, coming out of the tree is when he hurt his shoulder. So, and I have to mention again, that all happened while he was on a fishing trip. And those of you who know Steve have to know that he'll go about anywhere to catch a fish. He loves fishing, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of that in his retirement. So, just in conclusion, I want to thank Steve, and over the 8 years that I've been here with him, he has one saying that I always count on. Whenever I saw Steve, I'd ask him how things are going, anything I can help with, anything I can, add, to help him get things done. And his one saying that he always said was, all's good. That was it. And I could always count on him. He was a big help to me. Many times many of those times when I heard that from him, I knew everything was not all good because I knew some of the things were going on, whether it was flooding or personnel issues or whatever, but I never got anything but all's good from Steve, and I really appreciate that. His support, he was always asking me what he could do to help me and lighten my load, and I felt like I should have been lightening his load instead. So, Steve, thank you very much. I know that if we opened this up, there would be probably the whole town would come in here and say hi to Steve. Can't name the number of times I'm walking down the street, and everybody that drives by or walks by, it seems like either honks or waves at Steve that he knows because he's been around here and knows everybody. So, Steve, thank you very much. Hopefully you won't go far because I'm probably going to be calling you a few times for some things, but enjoy your retirement. You will definitely be missed, and thank you for all you've done.
No, thank you, Cleve City Council. It's been a great ride. I really got to thank my parents for deciding to move my sister and I out of LA to move to Placerville, the greater Placerville area. That was the first lucky thing that happened to me. And my mom's in the audience tonight. And I thank them for moving to this wonderful town. And they did it pretty much because they loved the town. They visited it and decided that's where they wanted to raise us. So I'm just lucky, fortunate to have two great role model parents that saw what this city had to offer. And although there was a time when I was working part-time for the city, when I was working on my delegating skills, and I delegated my mom to lock up Gold Bug Mine on the weekend while I was at Sugarloaf. I got a call from one of my favorite mentors of all time, Ron Mueller, was my first director. I got a call from him the next Monday morning, and he alerted me to the fact that my mom had locked a family of 4 in Gold Bug Park. Not in the park, in the mine. So I really thought that was going to be the last day I worked for the city. But Ron had faith in me and my mom, and we got past that. Then moving on a little bit, I got so much to say about the city and what it's provided for me. I had the opportunity to meet my wife. She was a playground supervisor for the city of Placerville, and that led to entering into the Bist family. If you've been in this community for very long, you probably know a few Bists. There's about 16 of them living here, and then a lot of them are in the audience tonight too. And so I got brought into just a wonderful family, and so that's great. And then I started moving up the ladder a little bit, and I got to work for a gentleman by the name of Ron Mueller. He was almost like a father to me. I spent probably more time with him than I did with my own dad. And then I got the chance to work with Mr. Driscoll, John, in the audience, and that was great. He stepped up my game, and I learned a lot from John, and I'll always be grateful for that. And then he passed the torch on to Cleve, and it's been just a real pleasure working with Cleve. Then you get down to the teams that I've had, the people that I've got to work with. It's a true blessing to be in the position I'm in, because you get to deal with just such a diversity of people, both those that your colleagues that you're working with, the Bob Pines of this world. Candace Bernardi's in the audience tonight. She was administrative secretary in our department for quite some time. It's just every day is just a different, it's just beautiful, whether it's the senior softball players or the bitty basketball players and their parents. And people are really happy when they come into our office. Until Cleve decided to get me involved in public works, then it's not always happy. But for the most part, it's been a great ride. And it goes beyond our team. Our team's doing great. And then I get to work with department heads, and the things I've learned about police, fire, public works, it's been a great ride. And I don't want to forget all the council members that I've had a chance to work with, and their insight and passion for the city that's shared. I just thank you. I've been blessed. I'm really fortunate, and I'm going to miss all of you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay in the community and hopefully continue to contribute back to the community. And I just thank you all for making my life wonderful. So with that, thank you.
Turn my own mic off. I don't know what we're going to do without you. Seriously, you are the quintessential public servant, and the fact that you are just always available to do whatever it takes. You've been there to serve our city when times are good and money's flowing, and you've been there to gain new skills and readjust your life and your workload when things are tight to make it work. And that is the mark of an amazing person. And we can't thank you enough for, being willing to jump into public works in those uncharted territories and say, put me in, coach. If that's where I'm needed, I'll do it. And that is just a remarkable skill and gift to our community. And you've done a Herculean job with that. And it's just been an extreme pleasure to work with you, to see you serve our community, working with Jackie and her team of Friends of the El Dorado Trail to, address some of those community quality of life issues that make a huge difference in our community, whether it's supporting our park and recs departments and making sure that Placerville is a vibrant, fun place to live, to doing everything else in between. Thank you for dedicating your life's work to our city and its residents, because you've made a tremendous impact in our city, and we are just incredibly grateful to you. So,
Thank you.
And Vice Mayor Cunha?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. These get tougher as they go on. Steve, you are a wonderful asset to this community, and it has been a real pleasure to work with you all these years. And I know when Ron Mueller was here, who was a big, lovable guy who just loved sports and everything about Placerville's parks, and he was your mentor, and he brought you up. And I thought, boy, when Ron retired, how are we ever going to replace Ron? Well, we didn't have anything to worry about at all because we had Steve Ewell. So, again, on behalf of the City Council, we have a little gift for you and your wife as a token to show our appreciation for all those interruptions that you've also had to deal with when it rained and it flooded and a park got locked or somebody got locked in the gold mine. It has been a real pleasure to have you as a colleague and a dedicated servant to this community, and to know, Cleve said that Steve's, one of his sayings is, it's all good. One of the other things he always frequently said is, we're on it.
Yeah.
I'd say, Steve, is the creek going down on the sandbags? We're on it. It would be, Steve would just literally, and it was always, we're on it, and it was his team. And I'm sure we're all going to miss you, but we wish you all the happiness in retirement.
Thank you, Mark.
And one more, Steve. I believe Supervisor Verkamp has some words he'd like to say.
Well, Steve, I don't want to make this a roast, but there are some stories that maybe you don't know. I won't go there, but, Ron Mueller's name has certainly been mentioned here numerous times tonight, and he was a mentor to a lot of us. And different folks that the city has had as their city managers and department heads really have set the ways for a lot of us to be successful, and here is one of them. I myself as well, and Chick's over here, we participated in many city programs through the years, and he always had that vision and turned on the light bulb for those things to occur time and time again. The county's interaction with the swimming pool and other rec activities have just been we're so appreciated, Steve, for your efforts and everything that you've done. So on behalf of the County Board of Supervisors and myself, we recognize Steve Ewell for his 32 years of outstanding service to the Community Service Department of the City of Placerville. We wish you well in your retirement. I'm already soliciting for him for something else. So I know he's not going anywhere. So Steve, we wish you well. Congratulations, well deserved. You've done an outstanding job. So thank you very much. You bet.
Thank you very much.
Before I open this up to public comment on our retirees, do we have any additional comments from the City Council?
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to make my comments.
Actually, I do. I'm a little verklempt up here because I've actually known Bob and Steve for a long time, and but this will be for Steve. Actually, just a general comment. When you have employees like we've recognized this evening in retirement and during their service awards, it makes us look, this job is easy because we have good employees that dedicated, passionate. They are the kinds of employee that, irrespective of wherever you would work, you would want these folks working for you. And so I think generally, just hats off to all of you. And since we're all heading out the door together, I'll join some of you. But this isn't about me yet. I do want to say about Steve, because Steve and I actually, we used to run across each other. I was the president of Hangtown Little League, the second coolest job I've ever had before this one. And they would, Rotary Park, and we would go up and do things at Rotary, and then I would go down to Park and Rec, and they would help us and we would help them. It was a far more community operation in those days because we didn't have any money, and so we always did the work ourselves. We did something absolutely amazing. We actually replaced our lights, and we did get city permits, but the help we got from the city on that project was absolutely remarkable. And it was part of the teamwork. PG&E donated stuff. Pac Bell donated stuff. The Rotarians gave us money. The city gave us money. And then we raised money. It was an amazing project. But I used to love going into that office because Ron Mueller would be there and Steve would be there. And then one day Ron was gone. He retired. And Steve had just gone over there, and it just seemed so natural. It was the order of things. That doesn't always happen in organizations, but in this organization, we were blessed that that happened. Because you heard Steve speak so eloquently. And I think that it has been my pleasure. And Steve's the one guy that when I stop on the side of the road, he'll actually talk to me. You know, he'll actually, you know, lots of times they kind of go, yeah, all right, get it. But Steve actually talks, and he's actually interested. And I have really appreciated that. And talking to him and his years of experience here has been just a very special thing for me personally. And like I said, with employees like we've got here, it's pretty easy to be in this seat. So anyway, congratulations to all of you very much.
Thank you, John. Well said. Any other further comments from the council?
I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents. I think everything that could be said has been said, but I am just going to miss all of you so much, and particularly Steve. I've watched him grow up, and before he even became a city employee, and known his family, and it's just been such a pleasure. And I told him tonight I'm just gonna miss his face not being here. He's been here my whole 12 years that I've been on the council and before, and I again want to thank him for the part that he played in getting our Vietnam memorial done up there. And I'm going to start crying, so I'm going to be quiet. So, but thank you, and thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to open up for public comment. Would any members of our audience like to say anything about our 3 incredible retirees? The floor is now yours. Good evening, Kathy.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas, for the last time. Kathy Lishman, Community Pride. It has been such a pleasure to work with Steve through Community Pride for the last 12 or 13 years. And Bob also, because Bob would get the call from Steve that something needed to be fixed. So Bob was a big help to Community Pride also. And Patty, you mentioned about the monument, and I want to say what a pleasure it was to work with Steve. Patience we had a lot of. Money we didn't have much of. And over time we were able to raise some money, and then the city put in the rest. And I certainly appreciate the city doing that. But it was a labor of love for us, and it took a really long time, and it turned out beautifully. And it was thanks to Steve. And so I ran into Steve once when he was having lunch in a place where you wouldn't look for him. And he told me he had a few secret places he goes for lunch so he can be by himself. Now he can go fishing any day he wants to. But Bob and Steve were such a help to Community Pride. And Steve always took everything in his stride, and even if someone was a little nervous about something, you got over it because Steve was so calm about the whole thing. And Steve's father was my son's teacher in 3rd grade, so it's kind of fun that Matt and Steve ended up working side by side. Anyway, thank you, Steve, for everything.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other comments? Come on down, Jackie. I didn't think you could be quiet.
Good evening, Council. Jackie No. I'm really going to miss my go-to guy there. In the last 8 years on the Park and Rec Commission, he's really just taken a lot of time and effort to teach me the ins and outs and what I need to know. And yes, Jackie, you can do that, and tell me why. And no, Jackie, you can't do that, and explain to me why. And it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really going to miss him. But you're still going to see him because we will have a new relationship. And so those hiking pictures on Facebook, you'll see a new face, and I'm excited for this next chapter. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Jackie. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you all for helping us celebrate these 3 really important people to our community. We so appreciate it. All right, 6.3. Guess it's my turn now. It is a privilege tonight to give my State of the City and my farewell address. It's unbelievable to think that 8 years has passed since I was elected to the Placerville City Council. I can unequivocally say that serving this city has been the greatest privilege of my life. As I look back 8 years ago, our city was embroiled in conflict. We were coming off the cusp of a horrendous utility rate hike forced on our community by a state-mandated improvements to our wastewater treatment plant. The Clay Street project was coming to a head over a roundabout, and we were knee-deep in a controversy surrounding redevelopment. Our community was locked in rhetoric that was heated and contentious, and for a little while we lost our way in a sea of speculation and a climate of rampant allegations. At that time, I was a Green Council member, naive, but optimistic and passionate about our community. That I haven't lost. Frustrated over the hostile climate in our beloved hometown, I pitched the idea of a neighborhood chat, and I was blessed by a council and staff that was open to possibility. I'll never forget that first night. As folks filed in this room, ready to do battle again, we began our discussion. We began it a little differently. We established a set of ground rules, welcoming every voice, but also expecting a community to dialogue based on mutual respect. We then spent the next few hours focusing on what we liked about us, what we valued as a community, what made us special, and who we wanted to be. As the evening wore on, battle lines disintegrated, and we came together, recognizing there was more that connected us than divided us. That work paved the way for the city values you see on the back wall. Since that time, our community and city have come together in amazing ways. In 2013-14, with a grassroots effort launched in only 2 weeks, we won the Paint What Matters contest by Benjamin Moore, and were one of 20 cities across the United States selected to have part of our downtown districts repainted. In 2016, Placerville welcomed the World Gold Panning Championships, where contestants all over the world were lured back to Hangtown by the promise of gold. This last spring, we got word that the Amgen Tour of California was to pass through Placerville. A broad-based committee came together to figure out how to welcome an event that we'd never been to. And by the time the Amgen athletes raced through town amidst a sea of flags and cowbells and school children and cheers, Amgen organizers exclaimed that ours was the best mid-race welcome they had ever seen outside of a small little bicycle race in France. From events on Main Street to community cleanup days and parades, our hometown spirit regularly comes alive. This is also evidenced by our annual National Night Out, where Placerville continues to place in the top communities across the United States in terms of community engagement and participation. Now, these 8 years have not been all community celebrations and victories. We've walked through some tremendous challenges, and we will continue to do so. Unprecedented storms have overwhelmed our resources and tested our capabilities. Costs of supplies, contracts, maintenance, and unfunded liabilities continue to rise, outpacing growth in revenue. Our historic pipes and well-traveled roads have deteriorated exponentially, causing sewer backups, water loss, and difficult, unsightly driving conditions. Each year, the 8 million visitors who funnel through Placerville on their way to El Dorado County's playground create frustrating backups as traffic continues to impact public safety access and the daily life of our residents. The impact of homelessness to our city continues to challenge us as we work both to collaborate with community partners to figure out appropriate solutions, while we concurrently reinforce policies and actions that keep our community clean and safe, preserving our quality of life. It's a very difficult balance. The public facilities in our city are long overdue for improvements, with city resources unequal to that demand. Finally, the nearby devastation in Paradise is a chilling reminder that we must help our community understand the critical importance of defensible space while we finalize emergency and evacuation plans for our city and its residents. While many of these challenges will continue to be a work in progress, the state of our city is not doom and gloom. A very successful Main Street rehabilitation project was completed in 2016. I love the fact that that project was part of a vision started by our community in the late 1990s and was based on community input and participation. Faulty pipes under Main Street were replaced. The sewer line was rehabilitated before a full repavement project with additional design amenities was added to our beloved Main Street. The project won the American Public Works Association Award for Project of the Year in the Historical Restoration and Preservation category in 2016. That same year, after a ballot measure failed by 11 votes, our city embarked on a subsequent process to secure the funding needed to fix our crumbling roads and pipes. I am so proud of the fact that for about a year, our city council and our staff engaged the community in a robust and honest dialogue about the extent of the needed repairs, which topped about $45.5 million. With that figure in mind, we laid out the financial options, and our community decided that a sales tax was the best way to accomplish this Herculean task. With that, I began work with a small and passionate grassroots citizen committee, and we launched into another robust campaign to educate our community on this dire need. Measure L passed with an overwhelming majority, ranking number 3 in the state in terms of voter approval. What this means for Placerville is that, combined with Measure H, our staff now has over $3 million in additional resources each year to improve our failing roads and pipes, where previously our only recourse was to beg, borrow, and steal money from our general fund. Measure L dollars have been rolling in for over a year now, and our city staff has been hard at work to put your hard-earned tax dollars to work in our city, improving our water, sewer, and street projects. This year, we have paved Pacific Street, Woodridge Court, Ray Lawyer Drive, portions of Placerville Drive, and Canal Street. Next year, Mosquito Road and Spring Street are on the list, and I'd say those are incredibly impressive accomplishments, and none of that would have been possible without Measures H and L. Also, in the past few years, the Blair's Lane Bridge has been completed, along with the Broadway Crosswalks project, segments 1 and 2 of the El Dorado Trail, the Party Big Cut water line replacement, And we are in phase 2 of the Western Placerville Interchange, the largest project the city has ever managed. In addition to improvement projects, we are blessed by an incredible city staff. An engaged police department is responsive to our community's needs, and Placerville continues to be a safe community where you can feel comfortable walking after dark, and where our police officers are your neighbors and community members. Our engineering staff, public works, wastewater treatment plant, and park and recs crews are on the front lines serving you, ensuring that your water is clean, your wastewater unseen, and that the city has the amenities to make our community special. Our finance department and administration continues to evaluate ways to keep our city operating efficiently. And I think it's really important to know that despite all the successes and all the projects that we have embarked on, our city and our staffing levels are still well below the staffing levels of our pre-recession rates. Finally, dedicated volunteers keep history alive year-round at Goldbug Park. This year alone, close to 20,000 visitors, a lot of them school children, toured the mines, and over 5,200 people panned for gold. If you combine this with our vibrant, historic Main Street and our 2 other business districts, Broadway and Placerville Drive, which provide critical services to the daily life of our residents, Placerville remains both a compelling draw to visitors from all over the world, as well as a safe, convenient, and friendly place to call home. What does this mean to you? It means that our staff is amazing and that they are diligent and careful with your taxpayer dollars, making sure that you get the best possible municipal services in a safe and dynamic hometown. I'm proud of the current state of our city, and I have no doubt that we will continue to balance precious resources appropriately while working diligently to preserve, honor, and enhance this charming, historic, and incredibly special city we call home. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve with each member of our city staff, and you have my utmost respect and gratitude. I'd like to give a particular mention to our city manager, Cleve Morris. Cleve and I came on board at the same time 8 years ago, and Cleve, it has been a tremendous privilege and honor to serve with you. Your ethical leadership continues to be the calm in the storm of local politics, and you have helped this city move through some tremendous challenges with grace, with wisdom, with strength and courage. And your leadership has ensured that our city remains sustainable and special. Well, thank you so much. I owe a debt of gratitude to my fellow council members. We have been blessed by a council that operates on an atmosphere of mutual respect, where our different gifts have complemented each other and our individual perspectives have served to add additional depth and dialogue to community issues. It's been an extreme pleasure to work with each one of you. And as we welcome 2 new council members tonight, one that I happen to know pretty well, I have every confidence that their diverse gifts will serve this city well, and that this city will remain a faithful steward of our community's trust. Finally, Placerville, thank you. Thank you for these past 8 years. Thank you for trusting me with your challenges, your dreams, your vision, your needs, and your future. It was a privilege that consumed me, excited me, and inspired me. And I hope you can feel the depth of my love for you, and that will never change. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Morris, I believe it's your turn.
Me, or do you want to do this? It's kind of the vice mayor and I together are going to handle this. Do you want to handle this?
No, it's a road show.
It's a road show.
Thank you very much, Wendy. It was a beautiful State of the City and farewell speech. It's just yet another example of the level of service that you've given to this city. Excuse me. It's now my honor and reluctant duty to recognize outgoing Councilmember John Clarici. John had been with us for the last 4 years, and we have a little acknowledgement here for you. And what I'd like to do for myself, now Wendy made it through, and I'm going to try and make it through 2 of these, and I'm going to read this. This will be my little statement to Mr. Clarici and what I think that he has brought the last 4 years. John brought a new and honest voice to the council. His perspective on many issues, old and new, caused everyone to think outside the box. John's consulting background allowed him to quickly focus on the heart of an issue, and we would knock them down to a manageable size, and he frequently offered a needed reality check on contentious issues large and small. I've enjoyed working beside him, appreciating firsthand John's deep love for Placerville and his desire to ensure its successful future. John has always been supportive of city staff and knew to spend responsibly, something that's very important in a city that's challenged with the income streams that we have and the many, many millions of dollars and things that need to be fixed. He is fiercely protective of Placerville's quality of life and recognized the town has to grow and to change if it is to succeed. His unique sense of humor and Monty Python quotes gave us welcome relief from the many challenges of running a city. I will always feel a part of his larger Italian family. From Vallejo, California, the headquarters of C&H Sugar. John, thank you for service well done.
I'm sorry, I'm supposed to stand. Okay. All right. Do I talk?
Sure. Yeah, no.
You want to?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Just to be sure, you know, C&H Sugar is in Crockett, California, a much, much nicer place than Vallejo ever dreamed of being. It's on the other side of the bridge.
I blew it.
It's okay.
My heart was in the right place.
Nobody knows where Crockett is. I have to remind them. Thank you very much. You know, I've been kind of dreading and, though, also kind of excited about this. It is not the way I wanted to leave. I would be lying if I said anything otherwise. But votes are votes, and people are people, and the folks in town have spoken, and I respect that. I had some ideas about what I wanted to say, you know, tomes and words of wisdom, and I'm not going to do that because I heard Steve Ewell talk, and I thought that it was particularly moving. I love Placerville. I moved here when I was 22 years old. I actually started coming here when I was 16. My sister moved here when I met my wife. I'm Italian. We get really emotional, but I think I'm going to be okay. Steve mentioned passion. Steve mentioned family. He mentioned the town. I grafted myself onto some roots in this community. My wife's family has been here since the late 1800s. They are Jakeways. If you've been to Smith Flat, you know Jakeway Road. I have lived almost my entire adult life inside the city limits of Placerville. We raised a family here. We sent our children to schools here. You have to love this town to do this job. You have to be passionate about that to do this job well. I have every confidence that the folks that prevailed in the last election have those qualities. You start to think of yourself as an indispensable cog, and yet if you look at a town that's been around since the 1850s and even before that, the gold rush, you realize that all sorts of people have sat in these chairs and they will get by without you. It's a humbling experience, but being on this council has been a humbling experience. It has been, in fact, my best job I've ever had in my life. The city is a phenomenal place because it's not a museum piece. It is an actual working city. It employs thousands and thousands of people in all sorts of professions like healthcare and government and education. It is not a place to be trifled with. It is a place to be loved and nurtured. It has its challenges, but it also, I believe, has an extraordinarily bright future. Everything else is just sort of talk. The staff here is great. I love them. I have found them to be the most professional, dedicated individuals that I have ever had the pleasure to work with. The council members that I have been blessed to have been sitting up here with over the last 4 years, the same thing. Dedicated, passionate people. I will miss this. I will not lie to you. It will be challenging for me. I do have a life and a job, and I will go off and do that and make some money. I'm sure my wife will be very happy about that. And I'll just go off and do some other stuff, but nothing will be as important as this was. So, not on a downer. Things are good. Things are great. This is a great council. I've got Dennis's name in front of me. I think it's a little weird, actually, to have like that, I love Dennis. He's a great guy. And actually, quite honestly, the fact that Dennis and Kara and Patty are going to be up here is just bodes well for this town, and it's a great thing. So I'm going to stop talking, because the sooner I'm done is the sooner we get through this, and the sooner I can go out and have dinner. And I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you all very much. Thank you for the kind words, Mark. Thank you, all of you. It has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
I just have to say something about you, John. I've known you, we've known each other most of our adult life. And I love this community, that we know each other in different ways, and our paths cross in so many directions throughout our lives together. And I think you're one of the best council members we've ever had. And your dedication to this city has been admirable. I mean, you've set your life aside for 4 years to serve our city with passion and dedication. Your representation throughout the region on SAGHOG and the SAGHOG board and with regional leaders has been so important in you've been the voice of our rural city at the regional table that is not always open to hearing what we have to say and understanding our issues. And you have made us known and appreciated. And hearing from members of the SAGHOG board how well you are respected at that table is evidence of your passion and your commitment to our city. And that has been a tremendous blessing to us. So thank you so much. More importantly, as Mark said, your ability to cut through the fog of issues and bring humor, important insights and perspective has really helped move us forward as a council. And it's been a tremendous privilege to work beside you, and look forward to doing more of that in the community with you as we sail off into the sunset tonight. So just really appreciate you, John. So. Any other comments?
This is just, I can't stand it that I have to get so sentimental and start crying over everything, and I just can't get it out. But I feel the same way in all the things that have been expressed about you. And I'm really proud that I was mayor and appointed you to SAGHOG, and I made the right choice, obviously. And I just, I want to thank you for your service for the 4 years you've been here. I remember before you ran, you met with me down at Centros and told me you were going to run, and what did I think? And I think I was in favor of it. I think. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for your 4 years of service, and it's not over. So thank you again.
Over here. John, I know we haven't had a chance to serve for a long time together here, but I just want to say I want to thank you for allowing me to be a colleague of yours, at least for the last couple of months, and placing your trust in me to do the job here. And I hope I will continue to have that trust of yours moving forward as we undertake this. And I know I'll be calling on you still going forward for your advice, your wisdom on issues that come before us, on things that I know that are important to you, that are important to me as well, as we move forward here. And again, I know this is one chapter, but there are other chapters here in Placerville that you will still do and undertake. And so I'm looking forward to working with you on those as well. So, John, thank you for your service.
Any members of the public would like to say a little something about John? Come on down and state your name for the record.
There's one.
You don't want me to talk?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kathy.
Good evening again, Kathy Lishman. When I first met John was when he worked for the Transportation Commission. And one of the first things that I know that he did, and I believe that this is true, is you helped. The city had the first section of the trail starting at Schnell School Road going east. And then you came to the freeway. And I believe that John helped get the funding for the county to build that bridge over the freeway. So I always remembered that about John. And so I knew what giftedness he had that a lot of us that have served on the council don't have, because we don't have a background in transportation. We just kind of learn along the way, and he had the skills. I also wanted to thank John for when we were working on the Vietnam Monument. He helped research the plaques that we had and found, we figured out who were the ones that belonged on the monument, and John helped do that. And John's humor is always refreshing, and I know that you know that. And I wanted to read something kind of for Steve and Bob and Wendy and John and the other person that retired, and
Dan.
to all the new and the old council members who
Dan.
Oh, Dan, right. By Ralph Waldo Emerson. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. And congratulations to Wendy and to John both for the years that you've served the city so well.
Thank you, Kathy. That was lovely.
I did have something I wanted to say to the 5 people that will be on the council now. John Adams' quote was one of my favorite ones always, and it says, "Always vote for a principle, though you vote alone, and you will carry the sweet reflection that your vote is never lost." And I encourage the new council members and the ones that are staying there to vote your conscience. That's really what is important.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Spoken from a former mayor and council member herself. Thank you. Good evening, Sue.
Good evening, Sue Rodman, Placerville resident here and faithful city council member or attendee. I would like to thank the council for all the work that they have done. And I would like to thank some special things for John Clarici, who I have enjoyed his humor at the council too, and his ability to cut through the junk and get right down to the point. And I also would like to thank you, while you couldn't be part of the Measure L committee, you were out there driving the fence posts and putting up the signs and doing some of the hard work that it took to get the Measure L to pass. Thank you. And I appreciate your service on the council. And Wendy, if it hadn't been for you, I don't think we could have got Measure H to pass. because it was Wendy's talent and her artistic ability that put together the signs that then John Clarici and other people put up, and put together the pamphlets and the flyers that we handed out to people. And without those signs and flyers and the ability to make it clear to people what the context really was and what we were up against, I don't think we could have got it done. So it was, thank you. And thanks to Mark Acuna for being on the committee with us as well. It was a major effort, and it worked. Yeah. And it's still working, and it's going to work for another, 18 or 19 years. So thank you very much for all the work that you've done.
We've made a difference.
Right, you have made a difference.
We've made a difference. Thank you so much. Uncle Fuzzy, nice to see you in the house today.
Well, it's nice to be here. Today I am Uncle Fuzzy. You see me tomorrow, I may be Santa Fuzzy. But, this is the last time we're all going to be together. We started our little journey in 15 to bring the World Go Padding here. I started in 12 and got you all involved in it. Trish is the only one not here tonight, but she had other things, I guess, to do in life. So I want to come here and thank all of you for the great support. And Patty came to the majority of our meetings and came along. I know the rest of you were in the background working. I want to give a special thanks to our city manager, your city manager, Mr. Morris, Cleve. There were times when I said, can we do this? Is it possible this could be done? And it got done. So one of those things that got done was the paving of the front of the main gate.
That's right.
At the fairgrounds, because it used to be ankle busters, and like Wendy said, we brought in people from 25 nations, and they didn't come for a weekend, they came for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. So I have a gift for you all, and since we have a new police chief, I'm including him in this because with Miss Kim Ida, she was tremendous. She came to all our meetings that she was involved in, and we had a great time. So here we go, folks. I did this morning at the Board of Supervisors, too. So all you want to know, this is what I'm giving to the council members. This is a rendition of our gold medal.
Oh.
This was done by an old Henry Warren from the 60s, and it's a special made to represent El Dorado County and the city of Placerville. So this is all over the world. We only kept 5 medals here, right, Brian? And he's got one of them. I didn't get anything again. But so what I like to do is give everybody involved in their places one of these. And I have a smaller version of this, which is a challenge coin. So if you play poker or you put it on your desk, you can put it there.
I love it.
And I'm going to have you all get up and get together, give a picture, because there are 20 people in 25 nations that want to see what's happening in Placerville. Because hopefully, I think we can bring it back again, Brian? Okay.
I love it. So you want us to come on down there?
Yeah. Or you can stand up there. That's fine.
All right. How fun.
Okay, Chief.
Let's go down here. All right, we'll go down there.
Come on down here, folks.
Okay.
Cleve, you get on there, too. Come on, Cleve.
Come on, Cleve.
This is our new council member who took Trish's spot. Hopefully he'll be here. Some of the rest of you may rotate out. Here you go, John. Right in. Yeah. And here's my... No, can't have those. And there's that.
I'm right behind you. Thank you very much.
You know how it is. Oh, by the way, all you retirees, including John, I have something for you to do. Just call me. You want a passion? Find your first piece of gold. You will have a passion. Oh, yeah, please. And here's one for you. Thank you. Oh, maybe I left yours on my desk. Oh, yeah. And I would be remiss if I didn't give one of these to my special friend here who I watched grow up in business, Mr. Tina. Come on.
Uncle Fuzzy, we need a picture.
Huh?
We need a picture. You up here. Here, I'll give you
What? Oh, I'll stand behind Patty. She's a short one.
Oh, this is why I love this town.
But by the way, the first picture we took of the group, which became huge, was on the county steps across the street at the chamber, and this young lady was in it too, a big. So, anyway, on behalf of the United States Gold Panning Association, the city of Placerville, the county of El Dorado, the state of California, and Brian Verlicamp, we did it, folks.
Wait, let's do pre-supervisor here. Yeah, absolutely. Brian was a huge part of this effort.
I was going to go have dinner.
All right.
This town closes up pretty
Somebody has to send me a picture. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. That's a postcard.
Thank you very much.
And thank you. Yeah, right. Make sure you put on your campaign 760 or 410 or whatever.
Wow. Like I said, our hometown spirit is alive and well. Thank you so much. What fun. I love that. All right. Any other additional comments before we move on? Oh. Hello, Jackie.
Oh.
Good evening, Council. First, John.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, neighbor.
Hi, exactly. Hi, neighbor. I want to thank you for all your creative solutions that you've come up with over the years to the many problems. I want to thank you for all the heated correspondence that we've had over the years, and still bringing up my garbage can in the rain when I needed it.
Right.
Oh.
Walking through the dirt and the poison oak in the trees to look at the issues that we faced. You've really done a lot, and I appreciate all of that, and still look forward to being your neighbor. Wendy, wow. We've done so many different things over the last 8 years, from campaigns and getting down and dirty and picking up trash and going and looking at things. I really just don't have the words, but thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to do all of those things with you, and I look forward to other things we'll accomplish.
It's been a great privilege to work with you. It's hard to keep up with you. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you all.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you very much. It is now time to move on and recognize our last council member that is leaving us, our mayor, who is leaving us this evening. I didn't want to get too sentimental with John, even though he can be thinking of a Monty Python quote to end this with while we're doing this. But it is now time to recognize you and the service that you have provided to this city for the last 8 years, and I would almost guess your lifetime. In the audience this evening are some of my mentors. I've been involved with city government since the early 2000s, and there are audience members this evening that were my mayors that helped to train me and show me what community service is and what you do and you serve on this council and the tremendous responsibility that you undertake. And Kathy, your quotes were quite appropriate. We should probably think of making Kathy our city poet, because she always actually very, very appropriate, and I thank her for sharing those with us. On that, as you expressed earlier or this evening, another example of the level of dedication and just inspired service. I don't think I have ever heard a city address by a mayor as we heard this evening by Wendy. So that serves as just an example. I am now going to attempt to get through this. So I will read this, and I will try and go slow, and it is all very much heartfelt. It is not often that a person chooses to serve their community with the passion, energy, compassion, and love that Wendy has shown Placerville the last 8 years. Since her election in 2010, I have watched her give her heart and soul to endless challenges faced by Placerville and all of its citizens. While we did not always agree, we always worked together with respect and integrity for the good of our community. Knowing that strong leadership is required to ensure a bright future, Wendy has constantly expanded her skills and knowledge to better serve Placerville. She sought and found better ways to work with our citizens and our staff. Concepts she introduced are now standard procedures for the city. Allow me to share a few examples of her accomplishments. She mentioned earlier community chats. Wendy recognized that we desperately needed a better way to communicate with our community and provided a platform for facts and honest dialogue between the city leaders, the city staff, and all of its citizens. This is now a procedure that we call on frequently as one of the first things on any new issue that we feel we need to have our community full engaged with us. Homeless advocacy. Wendy has worked with a variety of organizations and government agencies seeking ways to assist the homeless, while she's also recognized the limited resources available and the impact to our city and our citizens. Wendy has worked tirelessly, even before her time on the council, and also as they're working on the Board of Marshall Hospital, to recognize that homelessness is not something that we can solve, but something that we need to manage and do the very best that our community can provide, and provide a safe and secure environment for all of our citizens, no matter what their challenges it may be. And she has showed tremendous compassion for this very difficult and troubled group of citizens. The Measure L Committee, as has been mentioned by others, Wendy worked literally night and day assisting the Yes on L Committee to deliver their message for the half-cent sales tax to fix our roads and pipes. And I can assure you that the day and night was absolute, that at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, Wendy would send out a revised graphic for a sign or a revised graphic for a mailer. So, and she'd have it done at 6:30 in the morning again. So it was an amazing, just endless energy. And we recognized, most importantly, she recognized that it was an opportunity to use all of her skills to set Placerville aside from so many other communities. And now we collect, as she mentioned, $3 million annually. And those are dollars that come from folks that are visiting here, as well as our residents, and they are truly bolstering our ability to fix our town. Another example that is a little government geeky, if you will, but it was the state housing numbers. You all go, what's this? Kara, soon you will know and love state housing numbers. But it was a real problem. Previous city staff had erroneously reported some population figures. The state of California expected Placerville to deliver an unimaginable number of affordable housing units. Wendy grasped onto this, as she does with every issue, and put her heart and soul into it, and used her regional connections with our Assemblyman, Frank Bigelow. Soon, within 2 weeks, we were in Sacramento, we were in Assemblyman Bigelow's office, but more importantly, we had the very leaders of the state housing agency before us with the Assemblyman's assurance that they understood that our problem needed to be addressed and that we would all work together. It was that opening of that door that saved us countless headaches and state mandates that we would have never been able to adhere to. Those are just some of the examples of the way I have been honored to work with Wendy as she's dealt with working in Placerville. I have been honored and awed to be a part of Wendy's legacy. Wendy, you have been an inspiration to work beside. I am a better person and a better council member thanks to your energy, compassion, and integrity. As the new council moves forward in 2019, we will strive to carry on the standard of excellence and service to the public that you displayed while in office. Wendy, I wish you endless success in whatever new endeavors you explore, knowing you will excel at whatever you focus your passions and energy on. God bless you.
I've already made my comments, but like I said, serving with all of you has been the absolute greatest privilege of my life. Thank you all. So, all right.
I want to say something.
Well, all right, John.
I'm only going to get one more shot at this microphone. I'm making the most of it. Wendy is correct when she says we've known each other a long time. We actually had, for a long time, and our paths have crossed. The one thing about Wendy is she's yes, she is always enthusiastic and very positive. And for a lot of people, it sometimes comes off as false. You when you hear it over and over again, you're like, oh, no, yeah, it's just a shtick. With Wendy, it's heartfelt and real. But she also has this really tough side to her. So it's kind of like a pit bull with a real smiley face on it all the time. And so while she's being really nice to you, she's also kind of driving you in a direction because that's where she knows she wants to go. And it's really, it's a marvelous set of things. And she's genuinely a very pleasant and great person. It has been my pleasure to serve with her. Because as our paths have crossed, the fact that we ended up here together for 4 years was truly a joy. And so congratulations on your retirement. And I know that we will be doing things together.
We will.
If off in the future here in the city. So anyway, thank you very much. It's been a joy.
Well, thank you. Now it's time to get on.
No,
oh, yes.
I have
All
one.
right.
I just want to add my kudos to and agree with everything that's been said about Wendy, and it's been such a pleasure. I first got to know Wendy Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, gosh, that's right. You beat me. I came in second. You came in first.
We were in a contest at the El Dorado County Fair, and Wendy and I were chosen to dance with
That
the
was
stars.
fun.
So anyway, never, ever, ever dreaming that we would be up here together. And it's been such a pleasure, and everything that's been said about you is so true. And I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say we haven't heard the last of Wendy. She's going to go further. I know it, and I don't know where. I have my suspicions, but she's going to do well. And I just appreciate so much what you've done for us, and it's been such a pleasure working with you. And even though we've got your hubby coming up,
Yeah.
he's not going to replace you in my book because you're Wendy and he's Dennis.
right.
But it's nice that we're keeping it in the family.
Well,
and thank you, and you will be missed. But I agree. I hope you guys are not going to leave us, that you will be around to call on all the time when we need you, and because you have a wealth of information and experience to help us out. So,
well, thank you.
Thank
you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah. One more.
Two more.
Two more, that's right.
We're taking numbers.
So Wendy, I can't think of a better ambassador for the city of Placerville than you. As everyone says, your enthusiasm is infectious. It's a real loss for the city to see. But like my colleague says, I know there's bigger and better things in store for you as we move forward. But it's just a tremendous loss. I loved being, it was an honor being just for a couple of months here, being your colleague. And I want to thank you for always your encouragement, whether it was for me on Planning Commission or moving forward to doing this. I thank you for that and for your wisdom and for your guidance. It's very much appreciated. And again, as my colleague said, you can, whatever the next bigger and greater thing will be, sign me up as volunteer number one.
Well, you're very sweet, but you made one mistake. There is nothing bigger and better than the city of Placerville.
This is well said.
Doesn't
Very
get any
true.
bigger or better than this. This
Well
is a
said.
special place.
Wendy, Mark said I get to finish. So.
All right.
Thank you for all you've done. I still remember when we came on together. You came as council, and I joined the city as the city manager, and it's been a great run. I appreciate all you've done. You've supported me, and that's been a great strength to me, and being able to do what I need to do. And I will always remember this time. It's been great. All the council members, John, you also. It's been great working with you. And you know, I told Wendy I'm still going to use her as my party planner and my brochure designer because she's done a great job with that. And she volunteered, said she would continue. So I'll probably still have her number on speed dial, and I can get a hold of her when I need to. But thank you for all you've done and for all you've done for the city. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Privilege. You have my unending support. Well, thank you. So with that, it is time to acknowledge and file the official final election report of the November 6th general election. Regina, good evening.
Well, I have an incredibly painful knot in my throat. It feels like I swallowed a Frisbee sitting here the last 95 minutes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Counting votes does not end on election night. The registrar of voters makes sure all ballots cast are counted. After election night, in a statewide election, there are thousands of ballots that need to be counted, including vote-by-mail ballots received on election day, provisional ballots, write-in ballots, and damaged ballots. These ballots are counted during the 30-day period known as the official election canvass. Ballots require additional review to verify voters are eligible to vote, and write-in ballots were cast for qualified candidates. California state law requires the registrar of voters to complete and certify results within these 30 days. This provision of the law recognizes the complexity of completing the ballot count and conducting a thorough audit of the election results to ensure accuracy. Tonight, staff is requesting the City Council to acknowledge and file the official vote canvass from El Dorado County Registrar of Voters. Thank you.
All right, so do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Sure, why
I was going to
not?
say, that seems appropriate.
Yeah, that seems appropriate. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Acknowledged and filed. Any comment by the public on that? All right. Move on to item 6.6, adoption of a resolution accepting the certification of the canvass of ballots by the Registrar of Voters. Regina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So furthermore, moving into item 6.6, Bill Schultz, Recorder Clerk for the County of El Dorado, has deemed the number of votes cast for each candidate and each measure in the November 6, 2018 election in El Dorado County and in each of the respective precincts listed, the totals of the columns and the totals shown for each candidate and each measure to be full, true, and correct. I have received a copy of the signed certificate, which I will keep on file in my office for anyone wishing to view it. For this item, staff is requesting the City Council adopt a resolution accepting the certification of the canvass of ballots for the November 6, 2018 election. Thank you.
With that, I will move the resolution.
And I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Great.
And with that, it is our great privilege to welcome 2 new council members to the Placerville City Council, and we're so excited to welcome them aboard. So, Regina, I will turn this over to you as we welcome Dennis Thomas and Kara Taylor.
Doesn't she have to take it over?
So,
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
oh, sorry, Cleve? No, okay, sorry, sorry, Regina. Yeah.
Well, Kara Taylor and Dennis Thomas and Patty Borelli join me on the dais for your oath of office.
That's right, Patty, you get sworn in again, that's right.
You've done this before.
Yeah, just a couple of times.
Congratulations to all 3 of you.
I forgot I was going to be there.
You were the top vote getter.
I'm all right.
You bet.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Patty Borelli,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Regina. We're going to now take about a 5-minute recess. We're going to let the new council members get seated. Then I'm going to invite them to introduce themselves and say a few words. We'll be back in approximately 5 minutes. Thank you very much. We will re-adjourn the meeting at 8:20. And I would like to take a moment to, call the meeting back to order. And go ahead and I'd like to, first of all, welcome our new council. This will be the Placerville City Council for 2019. So thank you all very much. And I would also like to reintroduce Michael Saragosa, who is on his way to great things politically. I'd like to take a minute to allow the new council members to say a few words. So, Kara, if you'd like to start. Anything you'd like to say to introduce and welcome your family members and distinguished guests?
Everyone hear me okay? This is new, so okay. I'll always remember the day that I moved to Montana. My husband and I, or the day that I moved to Placerville, my husband and I left Montana in March. It was winter. We loaded everything up into a beat-up Chevy Lumina and drove 2 straight days through snow and freezing temperatures and made it over the Sierras. And right about Auburn, we realized we were getting close, and the climate started to change, and all of a sudden it was green and warm in March, and flowers were blooming, and it was really beautiful. We were really young. We had these big plans, and it was just a moment of so much optimism and excitement for our future. And almost 10 years later, our plans changed a bit. We opened a couple of small businesses, had our beautiful daughter, May, who's here. And through all the twists and turns in our story, we were just met with so much goodwill from the people of Placerville. And, everyone was just so generous with their support and their business and their encouragement. So it's really an honor to be able to give back in this way. I'd like to thank all the voters and everyone that contributed to my campaign with their donations and time and places for my 10 yard signs. And to City Council and City staff, I just want you to know that I'm really humbled by the election results. I know that there's a lot of factors in this election cycle that led to me being up here tonight. And I know I have big shoes to fill and a lot to learn, and I'm committed to bringing myself up to speed quickly and looking forward to working with all of you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Councilmember Thomas.
I have had the privilege of being Wendy's arm candy for the last 8 years, and attending all the events and really being there with her through that. And it has been an education beyond belief to coming from where I was to where I am now. Wendy has inspired me, has been a rock, and is an amazing person to spend my life with. And her support for me is beyond belief. And even, John's shoes here and it's an honor to sit in John's seat. It really is. I had beyond a measure of respect for him and his abilities and his knowledge, and I'm sorry to see him go. And I have Kathy's here, among other people. Many of the council members that I have known and had the opportunity to get to know over the years, over the last 30 or so years, I've been privileged to be in their space and to share that time with them, talk with them, and experience their sharing of their love for this city as well. And I look forward to serving. I look forward to being here. I look forward to carrying on the tradition of this council. And I know I sit in a seat of what I call giants, people that I have respected for many, many years here. And I look forward to just serving. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Councilmember Borelli, top vote getter.
Thank you. I really, I tell you, I am humbled. This is just wonderful. You get complacent, I guess, because I honestly forgot I was going to go up there tonight and take the oath. It's like, oh, I'm here and I'm going to just keep doing this, and so, but I too want to thank the voters for having confidence in me, and I'm going to begin my 4th term, and I've still got things on my list that I had on my list 12 years ago. Things that we haven't been able to accomplish, and I've shared with you that we had such a terrific setback with the recession, and not only those 4 years, but it just took us a long time to get out of it. But all the things that Wendy mentioned in her address, things that have been accomplished, particularly, and I'm going to zero in on measures H and Ellen, that we were able to, that the folks backed us up and were able to get the tax dollars to help, and that begins with our maintenance, our pipes and roads, and our presentation of Placerville. But we've just got a lot more things to do, and I'm hoping that I'm going to see some of the things that I've had on my mind of all these many years, at least begin. The wheels turn so slowly when you're trying to do something, and projects take so long, has to go through so many processes, and sometimes it's almost disheartening, but you just got to hang in there and look backwards and see what we have accomplished. So again, thank you, and I'm just looking forward, and welcome Kara, and welcome Dennis, and Michael, I've already welcomed you, but welcome again, and Mark, I've been around a long time together, so I think we're going to have a great council, and Cleve and John and all the staff and everybody, and just thank you for all your support. And so I'm looking forward to the next 4 years.
Thank you, Patty. Michael, any final comments?
Not really. Just really a day, I think, for our new council members, even though I'm like the sophomore, I guess. Not quite the newbie, but not quite an old timer as well. But again, I'm looking forward to working with my new colleagues on city council. I think we have a lot to accomplish over the next couple of years. I think the Paradise Fire put things in perspective for everybody. Growing our economy here locally. As well as items with PG&E and some other items that have come up before us in the recent last few months, and so I'm looking forward to working with all those issues with you, seeing what's in store for us to come. So thanks again for a couple of minutes here, Mr. Vice Mayor.
You're very welcome. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and move ahead with the rest of the agenda. As Vice Mayor this evening, just in case you're wondering what's happening, at the first meeting in January, the City Council will select a new mayor and vice mayor to serve for next year. So, getting us through the rest of this evening, I'll move on to item 7, which is public comment. This is the time when the public can address the council on non-agendized items. We ask that you keep your comments to items pertinent to the council and present your comments in a respectful manner. Are there anyone from the public that would like to comment this evening? Good evening. If you wouldn't mind stating your name.
I'm Stephen Puttiff, and I am a citizen of Placerville since way back. Went to high school here, went to grammar school here, so on and on and on. And I'm glad to be back because I have 40 years in Silicon Valley. Anyway, I wanted to say tonight that, I heard the speeches and I heard the presentations here. And Mark, that was one of the finest presentations I've heard of my daughter. And I want to say that, as divisive as we are as a nation, from one side to the other, this is this council, actually the prior council, that I've seen working together as a team, a lot of different ideas, a lot of different concepts, but you all came together with integrity and honor. And that is the basis of my daughter. And that's why I'm so proud of my daughter that has this exuded confidence. She's very positive because she doesn't know how to lose. I mean, she is a winner. And she drives for that, making it happen kind of attitude. And I love that. But she does it in a way that endears people to her. And it's that kind of integrity and honor in this kind of body that will set this city aside from all others. And I've seen it tonight, and I just love what I'm seeing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening? The Vice Mayor recognizes Kathy Lishman approaching.
For the 12th time. Good evening again. One of the things that I had mentioned before the election that you need to consider after the election is the idea that the mayor would serve for 2 years instead of changing every year. And I'd like you to consider that. It used to be that way when I was first on the council. And then there were 2 council members who had 2 years left, and they decided they each wanted to be the mayor 1 year, and that's why it changed. And I think it changes too often. I think the continuity of having a mayor for 2 years instead of 1 is just better continuity, and I think it's easier for the public too. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
And ditto what he said.
Ditto. Anyone else wish to address the council? Good evening. We have a member from our esteemed county fire agency. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Tim Cordero, Division Chief, El Dorado County Fire. This past Thursday night, we were able to do a training on Main Street where we were able to shut down Main Street from Center Street up to Bedford to do some valuable ladder truck training. During the training, which took place from 10 p.m. until 3 a.m., we had 2 truck companies, 6 engine companies, and 3 to 5 ambulances pending calls. And I just wanted to thank the city for allowing us to do this valuable training. Obviously, historic Main Street is one of our target hazards, so we can train at it back at the stations. We can talk about it and pre-plan for it, but having the ability to get out, set ladder trucks up on Main Street, to run through evolutions is really invaluable training for the crews to come together and unite on that. So, Steve, thank you for your assistance. Placerville PD, they assisted us with some logistics, as well as the Public Works Department. They helped us out logistically. But I want to thank the City Council for allowing that valuable training to take place.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I saw your post on Facebook and loved to see that all of the surrounding agencies had their equipment on Main Street, and those agencies that are not first in and don't know what Main Street presents. And anytime you need to train, you just come see us, because we need to protect the resource.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Anyone else wish to address the council? I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and ask Mr. Morris and Mr. Driscoll if we've received any written communication since we first began this meeting.
None.
Thank you very much. And it'll take us to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine unless a council member wishes to have an item pulled or make a comment on one of the items. Is there any member of the council that has any changes on the consent calendar? We're obviously going to have a couple of abstentions on the minutes from our last meetings. Yep. Council members? No comments? Okay. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on anything that's on the consent calendar this evening? All right, seeing no one coming regarding consent, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
So move.
All right, and
Second.
would the motion be with 2 abstentions?
Two abstains.
We'll have 2 abstain. All right, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
No, you have to say it.
Sorry. Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Abstain.
Just on the minutes, though.
Okay.
But she votes in favor. She's fine.
Yeah, she can vote in favor.
That abstention.
So you can vote in favor and abstain at the same time. I do that.
Okay.
Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Saragosa.
Aye.
All right. Consent calendar is approved. Thank you very much. We will practice in the meantime, and we will all get much better at this, I promise. All right. No items pulled, no ordinances this evening, or public hearings, which brings us on discussion items. And earlier this evening, we changed the order of the agenda to move item 12.3 up. And item 12.3 is to approve a proposed annual measure H&L report to the community as presented and authorize staff to distribute the report with the January 2019 utility bill. Mr. Warren, I believe we'll begin with you.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, and congratulations to council members Borelli, Taylor, and Thomas.
Thank you.
Tonight, we have the draft annual Measure HL report to the community. How this came about, on May 17th, your Measure HL Sales Tax Committee formally recommended that a report be prepared that would go to the community through the utility bill that would talk about Measure H, Measure L finances, projects, completed projects, and projects that were upcoming. And so the city engineer, Rebecca Neves, and I have been working on this. I want to thank Rebecca for preparing the brochure format. This was her idea, and the actual framework was her handiwork. And so with that, I know the Vice Mayor Acuna also requested a report like this. We had a draft report in your packet. Since then, there's been revisions made, and you should have a hard copy of that version. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Rebecca to kind of talk about what's included in this brochure. So with that, Rebecca.
Thank you, Dave. Welcome, council members. As discussed in staff's report, and thanks to the Placerville voters for approving both Measure H and L, it's made it possible to deliver a multitude of projects for our community. To date, we've proudly delivered a variety of roadway, water, and sewer projects totaling 23. Staff's report said 22. I missed one in the count. Sorry about that. Some of the more notable projects include the Main Street water line replacement, sewer main rehabilitation, Pardee, Big Cut, Chamberlain, Gilmore, Sacramento Street water line replacement, and the Canal Street. And it's a source of pride for city staff to say that these projects also did receive an American Public Works Association Project of the Year award. The most recently completed project is Pacific Street, with construction concluding just last month. Current projects under construction include the Madrone and Giovanni lift station projects and the Sierra Tank Bypass project, which was recently approved by council at the last meeting, I believe, or 2 meetings ago. Upcoming projects for 2019, we're very excited to announce that Mosquito Road water main replacement and pavement rehabilitation, Ray Lawyer Drive, Placerville Station Park and Bus, which does include additional water main replacement and pavement rehabilitation in the Mosquito Road, and also Spring Street. The brochure before you gives the community the opportunity to see the progress to date and the upcoming projects. This is a very exciting time for our community to see so many improvements coming to fruition thanks to the funding through Measure H and Measure L. And on behalf of staff, thank you to the Measure H and L Committee for their dedication and efforts and recommendations for projects. Staff's recommendations are summarized in the report before you. And I'd also like to say thank you very much to Dave for all his hard work on the brochure and always for the sales tax measures. Thank you. And this concludes staff's report, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Is there any questions for staff at this point on the issue, on the item before us? And I believe we've all had a copy of the new revision. Both. So we have the old one and the new one.
Mark, could I
questions
say something?
For staff right now?
I don't have a question for staff. I just would like to also say that I know a lot of these projects involve the community, and you know, a lot of things there are. I'm not going to call them mishaps, but things have happened along the way that are not planned, and a lot of the community members have maybe suffer is not a good word, but they've felt you know, and then they've had to put up with some. Even though they know that it's all for good. And I just would like to say thank you to those businesses and community members that have been, had to give up some.
Okay.
I just would like to say thank you.
Very good. All right. If there's no questions for staff, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this item and invite the public to come forward. Sue Rodman has waited patiently in the audience.
Yeah.
She is our very dedicated member to our Measure HL committee.
Sue Rodman, and if you look at the back, it says I'm actually the chair this year for a couple more months anyway. And I would like to say thank you to Rebecca and to Dave and to Cleve for their work to put together this brochure. This is something the committee has recommended, and I think it's much needed. And thanks to Wendy for the sign on the front that says, "Fixing our roads and pipes. Your Measure H&L sales tax at work." And it is working, and I think it's wonderful that the citizens of Placerville were able to see the value of both of these sales tax measures, and both of them passed at over 75%. It takes 2/3, which is 67%, to get a measure for a specific tax to pass, and both of these were at 75% and plus. And so I think it's wonderful that now we can tell our community, okay, thank you for voting for Measures H&L, and here is what has been accomplished. I think they need to know that. It renews their faith that we do value their tax dollars and we are paying attention as to how they are being used. And thank you especially to Rebecca for bringing us all of the disasters in the making and what needed to be done, and helping us reprioritize sometimes, depending on, when it's an old town. One of the ways Rebecca puts it is it's like having an old house. It's always in need of something. So, and it's our lovely city, and it is always in need of something. And so we do love it, and we are very proud to serve as your Measure H&L committee, and very happy to see this brochure come out.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate your hard work and dedication to this many, many years now.
Good evening, City Council and new City Council members. My name is Mickey Kaiserman. I'm on the Measure H&L Committee. In fact, I was a part of the original group of people in the city that got together, and we met for 26 weeks every Wednesday night. Mark was there and a lot of other people, and Wendy especially, and we met and tried to get this measure passed, and we did a great job in doing it. And I'm really happy that I'm a part of the Oversight Committee on Measure H&L, and I really want to thank Dave Warren for putting together all the numbers on this and keeping all the accounting and everything straight and giving us the facts, and Rebecca, who's done an amazing job of prioritizing the issues and the projects that have to get done and moving pieces around and figuring out better ways to do it. It's not only the tax dollars we got in that we're receiving, which is huge. We're also getting matching funds in a lot of ways that has helped make these projects come to fruition. So I'm glad that we have this brochure out here that's coming out that explains it, and it's going to be an annual piece, I believe, that we're going to be sending it out to let the citizens know where their Measure H&L dollars are going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. And again, thank you for all your hard work. And I do remember you as the chairman of the Yes on L committee, corralling cats, it was like. With tremendous diversity in the community on that committee. It worked to great success. Any other comments from the public on this item? I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Any other comments or a motion on this item? I'd like to.
Just a couple of comments. I think this is a great idea that we're doing this now. I think the more opportunities we have to promote what all the great work that the city's doing on this, we need to do that. There's always a deficiency in what people know and what's actually going on, and so to the extent that we can continue, whether it's social media, this in our inserts with our bills. I think this is great, and especially showing all the great projects that are coming up in 2019 as well, which I'm sure people will be very excited about. I know I will be on Spring Street. I'm replacing a bearing on my vehicle next couple of days that may or may not be related. We'll see.
We keep being accused of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just thrilled to see this coming forward, and I will make a motion to move this item.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments from council members? I would just like to, Dennis, go ahead. Okay. I'd just like to make a note for the record that our two new council members have had an opportunity several days ago to get their agenda package, and they are up to speed on all these items, even though they just did come up and sit down literally 10 minutes ago. They have been working diligently to be prepared for this evening. So the comment I would like to add is just thank you to the committee for their hard work. Thank you to the staff for getting this prepared. I think it's critical to the transparency to the taxpayers, to those people that trusted us, that trusted those messages that we asked for this support 2 years ago, that they can see very clearly where the dollars have gone, where they are about to go, and also very importantly, they can see the committee members here. And that was another commitment that we made to the taxpayers and to the voters, is that we would have citizen oversight, and it would be readily visible and available if there was ever a question as to what was getting done with this money. And it's a substantial amount of money, so it's working just as we'd hoped. So again, it's the frustration, I think, is now worked out, and it was for me because we had to wait until the dollars actually came in, and we had high expectations. Well, now we will actually have our engineering and construction seasons synced up, so that come spring, we won't be scrambling to design, we'll be awarding bids. And our engineering department will be using the winter months to diligently prepare their projects for the next year. So we've got the whole thing in sync now, and we're going to move forward with what I think is an excellent brochure, and I see it as something that we can easily update as our success stories grow. So with that, I'll ask clerk to please call. Don't need it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, staff, for your hard work. All right, we'll move back to our normal schedule. Next item is item 12.1, which is to adopt a resolution with some change orders on project. Who is going to present the staff report? 12.1.
I'll take that.
Rebecca, good evening
Yes,
again.
sir. Good evening, Vice Mayor Acuna, council members. The proposed item before you this evening will approve contract change order number 1, allow issuance of the notice of completion, and approve release of contract retentions for the Schnell School Road Pressure Reducing Station relocation project. Construction of the project began on July 10th and concluded on November 6th. The work completed include the relocation of an existing pressure-reducing station out of the northbound lane of Schnell School Road and into a secured easement and enclosure on the Schnell School property. Patch paving and slurry seal to the impacted areas was also included in the contract. I wanted to give a special shout out to Schnell School. The staff, and particularly the principal, were incredible to work with throughout the construction, incredibly patient, and we were very grateful to have them work with us on this project. The project concluded with only one contract change order in the amount of $1,607.94 that covered various items of work that is detailed in staff's report. The total cost of the project, including CCO number 1, amounted to $234,657, which is within the approved project budget. All improvements have been reviewed, completed, and accepted with substantial conformity in accordance with the contract and the specifications. Additionally, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the project manager, Mr. Corey Schiestel, the project inspector, Mr. Brett Stone, the contractor, C.E. Cox Engineering, and especially to our public works staff for their assistance on this project. This is a project that has been on the books since 2013, and Corey took on the lion's share of the workload, including night work construction, which is a challenge in and of itself, in order to deliver this project for our community. Furthermore, because Corey took the initiative to manage the construction of this locally funded project, it allowed the project to stay within the budget of our locally funded project. A huge thank you to the voters of Placerville for approval of both Measure H and L, as both sales tax measures were funding sources for this project. Staff's recommendations are summarized in the report before you this evening. This concludes my verbal report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions for staff?
You know, I'm not too sure that everybody knows what a pressure reducing station is, and I just think if you could give a real short explanation to the public of what this is that we
Absolutely. This particular station is downhill from where we connect up to the El Dorado Irrigation District bulk meter. As you know, Placerville purchases the water. We are a wholesale customer for EID. And as water travels down a hill, especially in a pressurized system, it gains pressure, it gains head pressure. And so by the time it gets to the bottom of the hill, it's going along pretty good. And so the pressure reducing station does exactly that. It reduces the pressure so that it could deliver through our distribution mains a pressure that's safe for household plumbing fixtures, appurtenances, and also for our own distribution system underneath the streets. Typically, plumbing fixtures within a house are rated at about 150 psi, and so we don't want to deliver anything near that when we deliver our water to customers. But that's the gist of it.
Thank you. I think that's, it's really important because people hear us talk about some of these things and they're not really sure what, why, or where, it's all happening. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if any member of the public wishes to address the council. Seeing nobody approaching the podium, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for action. Somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Been moved by Councilmember Borelli and seconded by Councilmember Thomas. That won't change. That spelling's the same. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The motion is approved, and thank you, staff, on that. That went really well. That's great to get a project done. One change order. That's awesome. There's so many variables when you start digging in the ground. Moving to item 12.2. Let's see here. We are asked to adopt a resolution regarding the Broadway sidewalk project. I believe Councilmember Neves has a report.
Yes.
Or, excuse me.
City engineer.
City
Yes.
engineer. I promoted you, or maybe
I'm like,
demoted you.
how much of a promotion did I just get? No, kidding. Thank you for your introduction.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor Acuna and council members, the proposed item before you supports the finding of the Broadway Sidewalks project as categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, better known as CEQA, pursuant to sections 15301 and 15303. And it also directs staff to file the related notice of exemption and approve various project budget appropriations. The Broadway Sidewalk project will improve sidewalk connectivity within the Broadway corridor by creating a continuous path of travel for pedestrians from Mosquito Road to Schnell School Road. Staff has determined that this project to be categorically exempt pursuant to the CEQA guidelines per section 15301C, specifically existing facilities, and section 15303 as applicable for new construction or conversion of small facilities. The city applied for and has successfully received a Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP for short, funding for environmental clearance, design, and construction of the project. HSIP provides 90% of this project's funding. On October 23, 2018, staff received a revised federal authorization for additional funds that fully funds engineering design of the project under the existing contract with REY Engineers. A notice to proceed for this work will not be issued until after the National Environmental Policy Act, better known as NEPA, clearance has been obtained from Caltrans, as they are the NEPA delegated oversight authority. Staff's recommendations are summarized in the report before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions for staff? This is one of those long, complicated projects. No questions for staff. I'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone from the public that wishes to comment. Member of the audience.
Good evening, Placerville City Council. Wendy Thomas, resident of the city of Placerville. Congratulations to our two council members. It's a privilege to be with you tonight. I just have to talk about this very, very briefly. It's so wonderful to see the Broadway Sidewalks project finally move forward, and I want to commend Rebecca and your staff for finding the funding to make this possible. The sidewalks are so chopped up on Broadway, and people walk it all the time, and we've desperately needed connectivity to that vital section of town. And in 2007, when the Broadway Village Association embarked on their community charrette and the Broadway multimodal plan was developed in 2007, it's wonderful to see that these years later, parts of that are coming to fruition finally. So thank you, staff, for making this possible. It's a critical project for our community, and it's very exciting to see it moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public wish to address the council? Seeing no one, I will approaching the podium. I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for action.
Move for adoption.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Question for Rebecca is: when do you, successfully completing these steps, when do you anticipate going out to construction bid?
Great question. This funding source is one of the more aggressive federal funding sources, and so it's actually slated to go out to construction next year. So we're moving along pretty good now. After we get, we expect NEPA clearance within 4 to 6 weeks. And then final design will probably take a couple months because it's actually pretty, as far as engineering design goes, sidewalks can be pretty easy going on you. And so we will prepare plans and specs and send it out to bid and anticipate construction this coming summer of 2019.
Excellent. And these funds are limited to this type of a project because there's substantial amounts of dollars and they can't be spent on other potholes and things such as that. Isn't that correct?
You are correct. An excellent point. This source of funding is programmed specifically to this project. It cannot be used on any other project in the city of Placerville. It cannot be used to fill potholes, and it even can't be used to fix sidewalks in a different part of town. It's specific to this project. And this particular funding source, in that it is a safety improvement program funding source, had to meet a specific set of criteria. And it was, this particular funding source also designates even the types of improvements that are even eligible. So we were very grateful when we were able to find this funding source for this need.
Thank you. Appreciate that additional information.
One
Mr.
question
Shergos.
for Rebecca. Are these funds annual funds that are out there, or were these sort of one-time funds that were federally allocated?
They're reoccurring funds, and the call for projects varies. I've seen it come out every couple of years, and then there was one moment where it came out within 1 year of the last call for projects, and that is because HSIP funds weren't being fully utilized in the county. They kind of give a pot of money to each district, and then each county kind of gets a portion of the pie. This project is also the same funding source that was used for our Broadway Crosswalks project. And because people weren't utilizing the full extent of the funding source, we were actually able to have HSIP fully fund construction 100%. So we didn't have to come up with any local match on that project. On this project, as we've moved forward and bid pricing is going up because we're keeping busy around California, the funding source did have some extra funds that were able to be programmed to support the increase of estimated construction costs as well. So we're very fortunate.
That's great. Thank you.
Go ahead.
How does this affect the road frontage improvements? Does this help him? Does it help them at all, or is that a different issue?
It does help in that, having an attractive frontage, I think would be a benefit to any parcel. So where there are gaps in the network or in the pedestrian network, and I will, my favorite example, particularly on Broadway, is the elevated sidewalk. And that will be remedied with construction of a retaining wall and having a sidewalk at grade. We've all been unfortunate witnesses to pedestrians who could not make those steps, diverting into oncoming traffic either direction and going around that elevated portion of the sidewalk. So that is an example of a frontage improvement that would be included.
with the cost associated with the property owners, does does the cost of this project include their contribution?
Not yet. One of the particular parcels does have what the city often engages in a street frontage improvement agreement. And we are working with that property owner to come up with a set of improvements that they would prefer and enjoy as well, because we do care what we do to each parcel frontage. We do care what the impacts are to our community. So we are currently working with several owners, particularly I'm thinking of Broadway Plaza is the one that comes to mind.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If there's no other questions or comments, I'm going to have clerk please call the roll.
Right, in alphabetical order now. Vice Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Saragosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
All right, see, things are getting updated as we says here. All right, moving on to item 12.4. Adopt a resolution approving a consulting agreement with Robertson Bryan, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $25,000 for the Hangtown Creek Reclamation Facility. Mr. Rivas, do you have that report for us?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the council. The Hangtown Creek Wastewater Treatment Facility treats wastewater and discharges that reclaimed water into Hangtown Creek under what's known as a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES permit that's regulated by the State Regional Water Quality Control Board. Permits of this type are valid for 5 years. The current permit was adopted back in February of 2014. With permit reissuance currently scheduled for February of 2019. Mr. Steve Herrera, who was formerly with Somas Inc., has provided engineering service support for the city for many years and will be retiring at the end of this month with half of the fiscal year remaining. So RBI has been a subconsultant under Steve Herrera and has provided NPDES-related services to the city since 1998. The term of the proposed agreement with RBI is from January 1st of 2019 through June 30th of 2019 for a 6-month period. Had Mr. Herrera not retired, he would have been under a full year's contract instead of just the 6 months. The scope of the work that will be performed by RBI is similar to services that would have been performed and previously performed by Mr. Herrera in prior years, with the additional tasks related to the reissuance of the permit for the wharf that's scheduled for February of 2019 is summarized in the tasks in your staff report. And there are 4 of them. Number 1 being the reissuance of the MPDS permit. 2, that's related to the study for the development of final ammonia criteria for the protection of freshwater mussels. Just to remind the council, there was an item brought to you some time ago. The city is currently under a separate contract with RBI to provide for services necessary also for maintaining effluent zinc levels in compliance with the city's MPDS permit and in conducting an effluent zinc water effects ratio, or WER study, on behalf of the city. And also it was very interesting to learn, this is something I learned when I was working with RBI and in working with putting together this contract, is they're actually serving as the prime consultant for the Central Valley Clean Water Association's special project that's entitled Freshwater Mussel Collaboration Study for the Wastewater Treatment Plants. So that was very interesting. They're the main think tank, if you will, that's actually doing the study. Task number 3 has to do with the industrial general stormwater permit compliance, and that just has to do with compliance, making sure that the stormwater then is adequately handled, any rainwater that falls within the wastewater treatment plant confines. And then the remaining task is task 4, which is our basic general support services outlined in the staff report. The fees to provide the proposed services described is estimated to be $25,000. These services will be rendered on a time and materials basis. This work is highly specialized in nature, extremely labor intensive, and is over and above the typical scope of work that has been provided in the past by staff. And so with that, staff is recommending that the council approve the consulting services agreement with Robertson Bryan Inc. for an amount not to exceed $25,000 for a term from January 1st, 2019 through June 30th of 2019 for the Hangtown Creek Water Reclamation Facility support services, including technical support services with the city's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System for the wharf and other permitting, and then 2, authorize the city manager to execute the same. That concludes staff's report. I'd be happy to answer questions you have.
Thank you, Pierre. I appreciate that report. This is an ongoing issue, making sure that we are hiring the correct consultants that are familiar with our challenges and our system. And knowing that Mr. Herrera, who has a long and successful history, dating back to the days of John Driscoll, with our plant, it's great comfort to me to have him recommending this firm. And I did check this firm, and they do have a robust presence in the Central Valley. So they are not strangers to the issues that we face. We don't want somebody to lead us down the wrong road and wind up in trouble with the state. Any comments or questions for staff?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
During the flooding, we had the overrun, or what I don't know what you guys officially call it, spills? Overflow. Was there any recommendation to augment the facility to address that issue, or was a one-time issue and we don't expect it happening again?
It was a one-time issue. There was a large boulder that rolled down off an embankment and actually struck the main water sewer, or the wastewater trunk line. And basically, because the water was well above the trunk line, it was highly pressurized, and so it acted like a vacuum, and it sucked up a tremendous amount of rock, gravel, boulders, which then sent all of that material to the wastewater treatment facility and caused extensive damage to the headworks. So we've been working with the staff, and so there were two different means we were looking at. And I'm assuming your question is, how are we going to prevent this from happening again? I think it would be unlikely to have a boulder hit the trunk line again. It's my understanding staff sort of peruse that section of the slope to make sure that our exposed line that basically follows the Hangtown Creek channel isn't subject to that kind of issue. But basically, we're looking at two different things. We did look at maybe creating a sump, if you will, so when the material comes into the headworks, the heavy materials, boulders and such, would then drop out of the water that's coming into the plant. But that's extremely costly to do that, and so we're looking at installing a grate. It's a very, very heavy grate, so they're working on, in fact, our senior mechanic at the wastewater treatment plant actually has designed a grate that will be lowered in there. Anytime we feel that there's a threatening storm that could send a surge of water, where maybe there's an issue of gravel and materials then making their way to the plant. So with that grate, it should be able to catch any larger boulders and settle it out. And then we would bypass the headworks, the equipment, the screen and such, to ward off any damage. So that's sort of what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Good question.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm glad to hear
Any
that.
other questions for staff? Thank you, Pierre.
One question. Have we had feedback from the Regional Water Quality Board in terms of the upcoming renewal of the 5-year? I mean, is there anything in particular that we're have to be cognizant of as we move forward? I know, this person, the consultant, will obviously go over everything, but is there anything that we're particularly looking for or need to be cognizant of as we move forward in the 5-year renewal?
There isn't. I think staff is fairly comfortable that we will get a permit that meets our needs. The state is switching from what was formerly individualized permit that was issued to each individual wastewater treatment facility in California. Now they have a more general permit where you start with a general permit as the base, and then there will be different additions or subtractions made to standard conditions in that permit that are particular to the plant. And so staff has met with the staff of the regional board on several occasions, and that was with both the consultants, Steve Herrera, and with RBI staff. And so we have a really good rapport with them. They're very comfortable with the operation. The only sort of outstanding issue that we're looking at is maybe the zinc. And so we're comfortable, at least we're hopeful, that the water effects ratio, or WERS, will be able to allow the city then to not have any special limits set on us and cause any additional expense. But that's probably the only issue that we have that we're still looking at, would be the zinc.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a
Thank you.
question.
Yes, please, go ahead.
This just reminded me, and I know this is kind of not on the same thing, but it's about that project. It's because of what happened. Have we received any reimbursement yet for that, or have we been told if we're going to, or?
So you're asking about
I don't know, but I'll defer to either our city manager or Mr. Yule that they were handling that with FEMA.
Yeah, so probably Dave Warren can update us. We have received quite a bit of reimbursement for our expenses incurred, damages incurred during the floods. But Dave, you want to update where we're at on that?
Sure. We received just south of $200,000 for various damage throughout the city related to streets, sewer lines, so on and so forth. That particular project, I don't believe we've received full reimbursement yet, but every dollar that we can seek, we're seeking.
So is most, I mean, I can't remember what you said percentage-wise that you expected to be reimbursed, and did that happen, or did we get more or less, or?
Yeah, FEMA, the identified projects, when we met with FEMA, and Rick Ferreira was really the liaison with FEMA and Cal OES, but FEMA reimburses for identified projects that are reimbursable 75%. And then the state picks up 75% of the remaining 25. So and then the city's responsible for the remaining difference. Measure H and Measure L have been identified as kind of the matching funds for those projects. So, but there's several projects that are still open related to the wastewater treatment plant, for example, that we still need to process the reimbursement once they're completed.
Okay.
I think it might be more appropriate to ask for staff to do a full report on that, since we're coming up to the 2-year anniversary.
And I
On the
keep
storms,
forgetting.
and let us know what
I keep forgetting to ask, and this just kind of
to just get numbers here this evening. We really don't know what you submitted and where they were located. There was more damage than that at the plant in one day, so 200,000. So I would ask that we don't get into that discussion this evening. I forget, did I open the public? Is that for public comment? I will do that now then. Any member of the?
I have a question.
All right, we'll close the public
Kara has a
hearing
question.
and we'll bring it back to, she's not a member of the public anymore. She is an elected
No, but
official.
I meant before.
Yes, ma'am, I'll get there. Kara, please go ahead with your question.
Is this consulting fee just part of getting a permit every 5 years? Is it just part of the process that every 5 years you have to go through this expensive?
This was just an added task to the consultant. So say, for example, the permit wasn't expiring yet. Maybe it was expiring sometime in the future. Staff would still be here tonight to enter into a consultant to help serve as auxiliary staff on these various other tasks.
Okay.
If that helps you.
The next time that we need to renew a permit is much more straightforward process if there's not other ongoing projects.
Well, the other ongoing projects is we still have the general support services. So typically when we're responding to concerns of the regional board, we rely on the consultant and their staff and their expertise to actually review the facts, the figures, the graphs, and our responses that go back to the board to make sure that we're in compliance. We also have the other task of the criteria for the freshwater aquatic life. And so that's something we have the extra bonus of, that they're the principal consultant for the Central Valley Clean Water Association special project. The city of Placerville is a member agency of that effort. There's a number of different wastewater treatment plants that's in the same boat because at the federal level, the federal government created a ammonia standard for the protection of freshwater mussel. So the city doesn't know if we have species of freshwater mussel that are protected in Hangtown Creek. So the study is essentially a DNA analysis where you can collect a sample of the water, and they're looking at the feasibility then, or rather whether it's going to be a fruitful test where they can grab this water, do a DNA study, and then do a quick determination of whether or not the mussels actually live in the water versus not living in the water. And that would be as opposed to doing extremely expensive, having people physically go out and swim the water and try and find the mussels. So this is something that would be applied to everybody. So that's the other larger effort that they do. So basically the general support services. Oh, and then again, I'd like to mention task 3. So we're also under a different permit because that's an industrial site. The city is responsible for ensuring the treatment and safe disposition of that stormwater that hits anywhere within the confines of the wastewater treatment plant. It's then usually directed to, there's a basin, and then it actually is treated water. So it's not allowed just to be discharged into the creek. Then any water hitting any of the paved area or confines of the facility then is treated before it's discharged into the creek.
And Pierre, could you just remind for the public what our potential daily fines would be if we did have some kind of release in any of our creeks? What
$10,000 per day. It's a lot of money.
If I can,
and it adds up fast.
Sorry, maybe just to add and clarify that too, Kara, is that Councilmember Taylor, we will on an annual basis have a similar contract to this. With the MPDS permit, which only occurs every 5 years, that won't be every year, but we generally do have similar services that we do on an annual basis with these consultants at our wastewater treatment plant. So.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Karen. Any other questions for staff? I appreciate the interest. This is it's, as I said earlier this evening, it is our most expensive facility, and it is probably the most regulated facility. Thankfully, it is also very well run. So we saw some of the dedicated staff here this evening, as well as our big staff that is still here. So this is an issue regarding money. If there's no other comments, is there a motion?
Move for adoption.
A second.
Moved and seconded. If the clerk could please call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Acuna?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And I would encourage our new council members to arrange a tour of the facility at your earliest convenience. Cleve loves to go out there. And in 2015, we spent some time by the pond that was growing. And I'm quite serious, so it's very worthwhile to go out there, meet the staff, tour the facility, look at the chemistry and the science and the different regulations that they operate that plant under 24 hours a day. And it is a real piece of art coming from an engineer. So, all right, that concludes items regarding resolutions this evening. Moving on to council member reports and other agencies' meetings. Given the hour, I would ask that if there are any reports, that we make them brief this evening. Transit Authority, I don't think there was any.
I'm thinking, I brought this to try to jog my memory. We did talk about the Apple Hill shuttle. And
For the, there was some discussion on the Apple Hill shuttle. It was a success, but only because it was subsidized through
and they're questioning the
significant funding.
They're questioning whether who's going to, if it's going to happen again, et cetera. And then they changed the fare structure for the county transit authority to miles, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To miles traveled instead of well, that was about it.
Transportation Commission. You might as well do this too. Did you bring your agenda?
I did. I brought Woody's. Here's the agenda.
There was,
Things of
I want to say there
interest,
was,
yeah.
there's some money out there. There's some substantial funds that I believe are going to surface on this at the state level. Am I remembering that correctly? We will get that information to the staff later. SACOG, we don't, well, Michael, you're going to be picking that up.
I talked to John earlier, and he said that Cleve, that you knew about something that
There
was...
is a pending action
so-
at SACOG to change the membership fee.
Yeah, there's a December 20th meeting, and one of the issues, I think one of the main issues, I think they're trying to get this adopted before the new year starts.
Yes.
So that will be on their board agenda, so I suggested that perhaps Michael will not be appointed yet to SACOG, so can't be there officially, but they're open public meetings, so definitely can attend. But perhaps that Councilmember Zaragoza and Borelli and former Councilmember Clarici meet and talk about that, and then you'd be prepared to attend that
My
meeting.
problem is that I am leaving town,
Okay.
and they did send me an email and ask if I, as alternate, if I could attend, and I can't.
Okay.
So
What we will probably do is...
I'll be there at least as a
Michael
public
can be
member.
there as a public member, and he can still speak on the issue and note
can't
that he
vote, but,
has not been appointed, but that he can
Okay.
address it. And I don't know that we necessarily have any concerns. I've talked to Councilmember Clarici about it. The fees are going up quite a bit, from about $1,500 to I think it's $3,700. So they're more than doubling. But
that's a lot.
realizing that they haven't raised those since well before the recession, they haven't had any increases. They've held them due to that. So, but we've got some more information. I have some information that I got on it, and I can share with you. And so I don't think it's no big alarm to throw out there, but it's something we want to be aware of and be able to weigh in on. So.
I think we'll leave it to our city manager and Councilmember Zaragoza with the update from former Councilmember Clarici to go down and observe the activities and report back to us next month. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And there's really nothing of any interest for LAFCO. No 2x2 meeting. So request for future agenda items, item 14. Is there anything that council would like to have on a future agenda? All right. I just wanted to note that I do have one. We need to start the fire, I'll call it Fire Safe Council.
I was going to just
For right now.
say the same.
Adoption of new regulations to learning from the lessons from Paradise and Santa Rosa, and how to begin that process so that we have current, effective, enforceable ordinances in town for fire safety. And I appreciate the job that El Dorado County Fire does, but this is we're all, including them, we're all in a whole new world with this thing. And I think the public, we're already losing valuable time where people should be out doing their defensible space clearing. But that being what it is, we still need to move forward.
And I would like to ask along those same lines, I know you said that you have been in conversations about this, the evacuation plan or anything like that. I would like to be included on that because I'm curious, and I'm not satisfied with just getting reports. I would like to be more involved, and if I can, if it would be permissible, because I don't know, I still don't know what's going on, and and more so now, a lot of the public is really wanting to know some answers.
Yeah, I think what would be best, we will bring back an update after the first, obviously after the first of the year now.
Okay.
And talk about that. I know in a meeting that I had with Councilmember Taylor, she also brought that up, and that's something that we need to address. So, yeah.
I think in that same vein, I know it's kind of fallen on a little bit because of the fire, but I still want to have a PG&E representative come
Right.
speak to us as
That-
well.
That's scheduled for January. We will have
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I think it would be really beneficial to have a workshop for all the fire safety stuff
Mhm.
for the public to come, and also,
Absolutely.
you know, I think a lot of people in the public also don't know what's going on, and I think it would be beneficial for them to be part of the conversation and be able to share their ideas. So maybe if we could get a workshop scheduled.
That will be part of our future planning.
Okay.
That's an excellent idea.
Can I pile on?
No, you can't. You're supposed to be telling jokes.
I'm working on it. Funding, just the idea or the research on the funding available for, I know that there's some out there, there's probably more coming from the state.
Doing the work.
That may be potential to augment our costs associated with this, so if we're gonna do this, that's probably gonna be part of it.
I can address that if you'd like now. I was going to bring it up under the next item, under staff reports, but we are in the process of currently working with the fire district on a grant application through Homeland Security that is specifically designated for code enforcement in fire danger areas. And I'm working with Fire District. They have a grant writer that is writing the grant for us. It's due December 21st, so it's right around the corner. And we're very hopeful, and I'm going to do a little bit of work on the federal. It's a federal grant, obviously, with Homeland Security. On the federal level, and I know we don't have our lobbyist anymore on the federal level, but I don't know that many of you may not be aware, but shortly after the Paradise Fire, I was contacted by the League of California Cities because they were actually contacted by the federal government, by the White House. Representatives of the White House contacted them and wanted phone numbers and contact information for the mayor and city manager of about 5 cities in this area shortly after the Paradise Fire. And Placerville was one of those. So it kind of tells me that we were on their radar due to proximity to Paradise, similar characteristics to Paradise, and et cetera. So I'm hoping that that will maybe give us a leg up in looking and getting in this grant. So I'm going to take advantage of that also. So
That's good news.
Let's move on to staff reports. Cleve?
Okay.
City manager report?
Just a couple other things I wanted to mention. Speaking of the Paradise Fire, I wanted to let the council know that on Friday I'm going to a city managers meeting. We're going to Chico. We're going to do a tour of Paradise actually as part of that. The purpose of the meeting is actually for us to work with the city manager up there and kind of help her as she kicks around ideas and rebuild ideas and et cetera. But a little bit selfish on my part, I'm looking also to get ideas from her in terms of what would she look at differently looking back at what happened and et cetera, as that opportunity is afforded to me while I'm there. So I'll be doing that on this Friday. And then the final thing is in January, I'll be bringing back a homeless report. The county, working through the COC and Opportunity Knox, has applied for 2 pots of funding, and I'm going to forget the acronyms, but the HEAP funding, and then there's one other, the recent money that the state made available for homelessness. And I will give you an update on what that funding is, what they have applied for, and how it will benefit our community, how it will help us in working towards that the homeless issues. And I think there's some good information in there based on a report that I've received from them that I will share with you in January. As you may or may not know, actually our 2x2 committee sitting down there, in their last meeting, they suggested that we do a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors. And so we are working on that, and this memo or this report that they have currently will facilitate that. Part of what they wanted to look at is having sufficient information to be able to provide back to us. And there's kind of 2 scenarios that might work there. And one of those is one of the grants they've applied for, they will learn about in January and be getting the money January, February. And once they get that, assuming that they do the way they've applied for it, it will enable us to start that process of community outreach and et cetera. And so this joint meeting will, to a certain extent, kick off that community outreach meetings and things that they'll be going through. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming back to you in January. I'll share that with you. And maybe even, I probably not by the January 8th meeting, but the following meeting we should know whether or not they've received that grant and how we'll move forward with scheduling a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors. So
You know, Cleve, you were talking about meeting, when you go to the Chico meeting. I don't know if you are aware, but Channel 10, this week, at their 11 o'clock broadcast, they're dedicating the whole half hour to the fire.
Oh, okay.
And last night was their first, and a lot of things were said, what they would do differently.
Yeah.
I mean, talking to the different leaders and, you know, that I think it's well worth watching.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Cleve? Any other staff reports?
I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Upcoming items. Items tentatively scheduled for the next Placerville City Council meeting on January 9th include appointment of mayor and vice mayor, commission appointments, Blair's Lane Bridge notice of completion, Upper Broadway Bike Lane Amendment Number 4, MBI Contract Amendment Clay Street EIR, the Cannabis Overlay Zone, and the Cannabis Application Fees, and a Community Pride Resolution. I'd also like to add that we will be recognizing retiring El Dorado County Fire Chief Mike Hardy at our next meeting. And we'll have a small reception for him and a presentation probably right at 6 o'clock at the beginning of that meeting. We'll start out with yet some more ceremonial matters. So with that, I will wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you to staff for your hard work this evening and a longer evening. And I also like to again welcome a new council member, Kara Taylor, and Councilmember Dennis Thomas. And with that, I wish everybody good evening and a Merry Christmas.